radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening. Fade to Black, Bespoke Radio for the masses. Yeah, man, how you doing? How you doing? Today's Wednesday, November 18th, 2020. Let's do this, man. 323 days into the new year. Only 43 days left. Getting close. We are live from a bunker somewhere in the middle of beautiful downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? I lost my pen. I'll grab another one. And it works. All right, how you doing? Let's do this. Tonight, very special guest, Stephen Bassett. Stephen Bassett is here live from Washington, D.C. We're going to be talking about the new Biden administration and their position on disclosure and the UFO question as we move through 2021. Get ready, kids. Stephen Bassett is here. Tomorrow night is another Fader night with open lines all night long. And I already know what's going to happen tomorrow night on the show. I've got one of the coolest announcements that we're going to do tomorrow night. And I said we because somebody's going to be here doing it with me. But I got to say, if I have got a bucket list, and I think that we all do. I think we, even privately, you may not write it down or discuss it, but you've got a bucket list. Okay? All right, you've been building on that since you were a kid. And tomorrow night, I'm going to announce one thing that is going to definitely be checked off the bucket list. Holy crap. Yeah, man. You know what? And this is the thing. This is the thing. I can guarantee everybody listening to my voice tomorrow night for this announcement is going to go, what? What? Yeah, it's pretty cool. So get ready for that tomorrow night, Fader night. And there you go. All right, so Stephen Bassett is here. Tomorrow night's Fader night. And let's get all the other stuff out of the way. I want you to go and sign up right now for Billy Carson's new television network. It is forbiddenknowledge.tv. And I was saying last night that he's got it going on. And I know that, I don't know all of them specifically like a list, but he is now on the video on demand platforms, and you can go find it there. You can go and click on the banners over at jimmychurchradio.com. You can head over that way. When you sign up, you get a 3-day free trial membership right there. You can check everything out. And then over at forbiddenknowledge.tv, All of the VOD stuff is there as well. He's got a new book coming out that we're getting ready to announce, and I had the honor and privilege to write the foreword to his new book, and so we'll be doing that soon. And he's got a new documentary that is being finished up too as well on the Black Knight satellite. And some of the announcements have been made about that. There's been some rumors going on, so I can confirm. And so, yeah, you can go and check everything out at forbiddenknowledge.tv. And I want you to also get your first or second or add to your Crystal Skull collection by going to EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Over at JimmyChurchRadio.com are the banners for all of our sponsors here. And that includes Hoffman's Optics. It's right there at JimmyChurchRadio.com, night vision goggles. Somebody emailed me today about Hoffman's Optics, sent them the link. It's very simple over at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Get the tea, Ronnie McMullen, all of that stuff. That is over there. Of course, River Moon Coffee. That is at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Go and click all of the wellness products that we're partnering with River Moon Coffee. And thank you to everybody that has checked that out. It's just amazing. Right there at JimmyChurchRadio.com. And all the other sponsors, they're all right there. Okay? TalkStream Live and The Telepath. Did you see the Telepath article? Did you read that? The links for my Telepath article for this week are up in social media, and you can go and click and read and check that out. Okay? All right. Oh, let's see. Where am I at? Let's just get straight to it. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. At JChurchRadio. Right there. Start right there. You wonder what's going on with the show, what's on my mind. It's all right there on Twitter at JChurchRadio. All of the other links for our social media are over at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Hello to everybody on YouTube, Facebook, the Bunker Cam. We've got 2 chat rooms open, one at Spreaker, one, of course, over at KGRA The Planet, and hashtag F2B is the sandbox in Twitter. Buckethead. Check that out. Buckethead GIF. You want to see a Buckethead GIF? Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Hashtag F2B is where the action is. And it's all right there. Look at these GIFs. You guys are the best, man. You guys are the best. All right. Let's get to the breaking news. This is pretty crazy. Friday the 13th. This past Friday the 13th, we set a new record. A new record for the closest asteroid flyby of planet Earth. And it now has been set after a boulder, huge one, named 2020 VT4. Check this. Came within 250 miles of our planet. All of this on Friday the 13th. And our planetary defenses missed it. That's right. And within 250 miles of the planet. Now, the ISS, the International Space Station, orbits the Earth at 248 miles above the surface. Seriously, chew on that. Think about that for a second. And we missed it. The asteroid was spotted by the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, otherwise known as ATLAS, at the Mauna Loa Observatory in Hawaii some 15 hours after it made its close approach from a sun-facing blind spot. I'm not making any of this up. 16 feet in diameter, 2020 VT4 made its closest approach at about 1720 Universal Time on Friday, November 13th, over the South Pacific near the Pitcairn Islands. And if that doesn't scare the crap out of you, 15 hours after it blew past. Well, police in New York say that they are investigating an incident in which a shirtless man fired a flamethrower from the roof of a packed city bus earlier this month. Footage posted on social media shows the pyrotechnic prank, which took place at 5:30 p.m. local time on November 8th. though the NYPD only confirmed detectives were just now investigating the case, and they talked about it for the first time yesterday. As the flamethrower-wielding man leapt from an ice cream truck onto an MTA B-26 bus, some flammable liquid dripped from the flamethrower onto the vehicle's roof, but no injuries or damage were reported. The stunt was reportedly part of a music video by local rapper Dupree G.O.D. And that is nuts. Let's get this show cracking. Happy birthday to the one and only Owen Wilson. Owen Wilson, today 52. Of course, star of Zoolander, Meet the Parents, Rushmore, The Royal Tenenbaums, and Bottle Rocket. Mike Epps today is 50. He was really good. What was that movie called? Troop Zero? You remember that movie? I highly recommended it. Mike Epps today is 50. Oscar Nunez. Oscar Nunez today is 63. He played Father Doug in People of Earth. Original Scorpions drummer Herman Rarebell, today 71 years old. Metallica guitarist Kirk Hammett, today is 58. And rock god bassist Rudy Sarzo, today is 70 years old. Our dead guy's birthday today, check this out. Al DeVoren, 1923 to 2004, died at the age of 80. Al was the musical director, the promoter, producer, advance man, security chief, concessions manager, and stage announcer for the King, Elvis Presley. That's right. Al was the voice behind Elvis Has Left the Building. Thank you and good night. Yeah. He would often add to that, and as you exit, don't forget those Elvis souvenirs in living, loving color. A wonderful memento of this evening's concert you'll long cherish when the sounds of music long cast into the night. Al DeVoren. Absolutely incredible. Happy birthday, Al. On this day in history, 1978, the world's... it was mind-blowing. I was in Panama. I got the news a couple of days late, and I didn't get it from the news on TV. I think I got it from the Miami Herald in a newspaper. But People's Temple founder Jim Jones leads 909 of his followers in a mass murder-suicide at their commune in Guyana. A third of those who perished were children. And I was just a kid. You know, I was like 14 years old. And I was reading that in the paper, and I didn't even know where Guyana was. I don't think most people did at the time. I had to look for it on a map because they said it was in South America, and it turned out it wasn't that far from Panama. But I'll just never forget that day, on this day in 1978. Fader fact, the world's tallest tree, it's called Hyperion, is over 380 feet tall. It was discovered in 2006 in California's Redwood National Park. But to prevent damage in sightseeing, its exact location remains a secret. And that is your Fader fact. Tonight, very special guest Stephen Bassett is here. We're going to discuss the new Biden administration and their position on disclosure and the UFO question as we head through and start 2021. Tomorrow night is another Fader night with open lines all night long. We got a huge announcement that is going to happen tomorrow night, and stay tuned for all of that. Now, this is the point in the show where I hit this River Moon coffee. rivermooncoffee.com. The links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B Blend. Emmanuel just posted up in Twitter. He says, are we really talking about politicians and disclosure again? But he's got a laughing emoji. So, yeah. Yep. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Every 4 years, it seems that we get to bring up the subject about the POTUS being the POTUS that will finally confront the UFO question head on. That's right. Now, if we rock things back a bit, we can recall the memories of Bill Clinton on the Jimmy Kimmel Show back in 2014. Is Jimmy Kimmel back on the air? Did he come back? I don't even know. But Bill Clinton, and joking at first, he says, hey, I had people look at the record of Area 51 to make sure that there are no aliens down there. There were no aliens. And you remember that. You remember when Bill said that in the UFO community? We were all talking about it. It was big news. Right? And then Kimmel turns to Clinton. He said, hey, if you, talking to Bill, would tell Americans if there were indeed aliens, would you? And Clinton said, yes. Well, we all know that didn't happen. But then there was Hillary on the campaign trail back in 2016. When she was asked about UFOs in an interview with the Conway Daily Sun in New Hampshire, Hillary promised to, and I'm quoting, get to the bottom of it. Well, that didn't happen either. When Jimmy Kimmel asked Hillary Clinton in a late-night TV interview about UFOs, she quickly corrected his terminology, and we all remember that, don't we? Stating, quote, there's a new name. It's unexplained aerial phenomenon, UAP. That's the latest nomenclature, end quote. And then, of course, there was then President Barack Obama, also on Kimmel. That's right. Then Obama was still POTUS. Kimmel's opening statement on that show on March 12th, 2015 was this, quote, if I was the president, I would immediately race over to wherever they have the files about Area 51 and UFOs, and I'd go through everything to find out what happened. Did you do that? Obama's response, that's why you will not be president, because that's the first thing that you would do. And then Barack continued with, the aliens won't let it happen. You'd reveal all their secrets, and they exercise strict control over us. I can't reveal anything, end quote. There was analysis done on all of this. There was facial record, people that it was crazy. Analyzing everything. It was a lot of fun, too. But this golden era of UFOs and politics only lasted for about 11 months. Seemed a lot longer, but it was not. But it was fun while it was going on. Now, here we are. It's now been 4 long years without barely a mention of the subject when it comes to the POTUS. Sure. I know. We've had the questions asked of President Trump a few times. All of them dismissed by him, by the way. He doesn't believe in UFOs, aliens, ET, UAPs, or little green men. He thought that Roswell was Area 51. Or maybe it was that Area 51 was Roswell. I'm not too sure what was going through his mind at that time, but he didn't have a clue what the questions were really about. And that's okay. I get it. Seems like he wasn't read in, didn't ask for it, doesn't care. So here we are with just 2 months left, nearly to the day. That's right. Will President Trump spill the beans about UFOs and ET contact? A little disclosure action before the inauguration on January 20th, 2021? You know, a little parting gift to the world? Would he do it? I know that right now, there are many in the UFO community wondering the same thing. And many think that it's possible. I'm not so sure. I think the president right now has a few things occupying his time, and UFOs aren't one of them. And I feel pretty confident in this statement. I think that the members of the media and his own son did their very best to press the issue with President Trump, and it just didn't happen, did it? You have to remember, back when he was asked about UFOs and UAPs, it was at the height, the apogee, the peak of Tucker Carlson doing his nightly UFO updates with Nick Pope. And you know Trump was watching. It wasn't like he didn't know what was going on. He's glued to the TV, and that's cool. I'd do it, right? But he just wasn't interested in it. That's it. That's the facts. There's no real reason to think that this has changed over the last few months. We know what we've gone through in the last few months. Okay? The election ended on November 3rd, and now he is definitely occupying his time with other issues. And I just don't think UFOs are there. I don't think they're being discussed in the Oval Office. I don't think he's thinking about it. I don't think he's laying awake at night wondering how he was going to break the news to the country. I just don't think it's on the agenda. It's not on the books. It's not on the calendar. All right? Now, I don't want to bum people out, but that's just where we are. Okay? What has changed over the last 4 years, though, is that, and it has nothing to do with POTUS, is that allegedly the Senate Intelligence Committee is interested in moving the matter forward. I say allegedly because UAPs and something terrestrial that is from this earth is different from UFOs. So what is it that the Senate Intelligence Committee is interested in? We know that they are interested in our military and the safety of this country and what possibly may be going on in the skies. So we have to say allegedly because I don't know if it's about UFOs, right? But that is what may happen in 2021. And that will happen, if it does, during the new Biden administration's watch. We will see all of the normal transition appointments within the security services, like the CIA, the NSA, the NRO, the FBI, and, of course, the DOD and the Pentagon. So, just like it always is, every 4 years, we wait, we discuss, and we hope. The wild card this time around isn't with a candidate who was on the campaign trail yakking about UFOs on late night television. That's not the case, right? And what that candidate will do once they're in the Oval Office and they'll reveal everything about the UFO question for the public. No. As far as I know, Joe Biden has never brought up or has been asked about flying saucers by the media. The wild card this time is with the Senate Intelligence Committee. This is one of the things that we're going to be talking about tonight with Stephen Bassett. And like I said, this is one of the things, and I think it's pretty cool, that we get to do in the UFO community every 4 years, is discuss this and hope. That's what we have to. We cannot not do it. The world is in the middle of changes. The entire planet. I want to remind everybody, talking about a preoccupation in the Oval Office, that today we were just a few dozen deaths short of 2,000 here in the United States due to COVID. That's right. It's a crazy number. Once again today, we were way over 150,000 cases. 160. I think it was 168,000 cases today. The spike in cases, not only here in the United States, but around the world, is alarming. The deaths that are happening around the world. Look at what happened in Italy today. Look at the numbers. It's absolutely frightening. I don't know when we're going to take the turn. I don't know if it's going to happen naturally, if immunities are going to take over. There's going to be a change in the virus itself. I don't know. I don't know if these vaccines and those who are going to take them voluntarily, if that's going to make a difference. I don't know. Is that part of the science? I don't know. And with the amount of people that are opposed to taking vaccines, even if the vaccines work, they don't cause any harm whatsoever. And that's a possibility. But the fear of vaccinations is out there enough around the world that maybe not enough people will take it. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know. So that's what's going on in the White House. Do you think that UFOs are on the agenda between now and January 20th? I don't think so. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Stephen Bassett is here live from Washington, D.C. We're going to be talking about the new Biden administration and their position on disclosure and the UFO question heading into 2021 and beyond. Tomorrow night's another Fader night. Big announcement on the show tomorrow night. You're not going to want to miss it. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. Follow me right now on Twitter. That's what I would do. And I'll be right back with Stephen Bassett right after this short break. Stay with us.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Introducing the Game Changer blend from River Moon Coffee that delivers a customized blend made specifically for the Fadernauts. If the game is rigged, change the game. It's a bolder cup with some bite. Game Changer is the coffee of choice for those that prefer an organic dark roast that is slightly lighter and milder, but it's still dark. With wild notes of pecans and chocolate with a rich, balanced, full-bodied cup that is roasted to perfection for a great coffee to start your day, as an after-dinner coffee or anywhere in between. Artisan, small batch roasted to perfection. USDA certified organic, all River Moon coffee is freshly roasted and packaged in the USA. Just go to rivermooncoffee.com or click on the banners over on our site and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. rivermooncoffee.com. Go Beckley Teppy.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRARadio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, folks. It's troubling times, and fear is pushing emotions, which in turn pushes health the wrong direction. Do you ever get an ache because life is uneasy? Try Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Life Change Tea works on your digestive tract, helping to move food through quicker and comfortably so your health is spot on. Life Change Tea may not help with world issues, but it will help with your digestive issues. A glass a day helps keep the intruders away. So, change your life today. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. If your health game is off, get on by ordering Life Change Tea. Getthetea.com. And while you're on our site, look around at the great non-GMO organic supplements. And if you're a sales shopper, go to our specials page and see what's for you. I've been drinking the tea for 12 years, and I'm sure glad for its health benefits. Again, that's getthetea.com. Getthetea.com. The tea that makes you go.
Permanent industrial glue impossible to remove? Not anymore, because Handyman Formula by D-Bond is a patented chemical adhesive remover. It's used in the building and home maintenance industry, but now it's available for your home use, for your DIY projects. Unglue stickers, silicone rubber, labels, price tags, flex tape, weather stripping, carpet glue, wood glue, liquid nails, even 3M 5200. And it dissolves graffiti. Yeah, graffiti. Handyman Formula by D-Bond works, and it's safe to use on most surfaces. No need to call a professional. Don't get out the pliers and blowtorch. Just apply a little Handyman Formula by D-Bond and wait 90 seconds, then quickly and easily pull the items apart. Get unstuck. Visit dbondhandymanformula.com. That's dbondhandymanformula.com or call 561-575-4200. Handyman Formula by D-Bond.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Stephen Bassett is here live from Washington, D.C. We're going to be talking about and discussing the new Biden administration that is about to take over and what it means for disclosure in the UFO question as we head into 2021. I want to remind everybody, tomorrow night is Fader night with open lines all night long, and we have a huge announcement, a bucket list being checked off for me. We're going to announce all of this tomorrow night here on Fade to Black. But tonight it's Stephen. He's, of course, the executive director of the Paradigm Research Group, founded in 1996. And all of this to end the government-imposed embargo on truth behind the so-called UFO phenomenon. In 2013, PRG produced a citizen hearing on disclosure. Citizen. Steve, there's a new word for you. Citizen. Yeah, exactly. At the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. on November 5th, 2014, PRG launched a congressional hearing political initiative seeking the first hearings on Capitol Hill since 1968. His links for PRG are over at jimmychurchradio.com, paradigmresearchgroup.org. Stephen, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Jimmy, long time no see, compadre.
Yeah, I know. And this is the thing. We've got this pandemic going on. And
I've heard of it.
Yeah. And you and I get a chance to hang out a few times a year somewhere in the country and get caught up on things and break some bread. And that didn't happen this year, and I'm not so sure when these little UFO get-togethers are going to happen again around the country, but I'm sure I'll see you soon enough.
So true, Jimmy. Look, before we get going, I think I should apologize in advance to your listeners because I'm not a family man. So I've been in strict isolation now for 242 straight days.
Right.
And as a result, how can I put this? The steak knives in my silverware drawer have all turned to dinner knives, if you know what I mean.
I do.
All right?
I do.
Lost the ledge. And, give you an example. I'll be searching for a word. I'll be talking when I find a word, and it's not there. I've used it countless times. It's not there. It's gone. And I'm thinking, where's this word? What, did it retire, take a pension, and move to Key West? Where the hell is this word? Right? And so hopefully that'll get better. But I'll tell you, man, I need this vaccine if only to get my vocabulary back.
You know what? This is the thing. Is I've caught myself doing the same thing where my brain has gotten a little bit lazy. And you and I are no different than the rest of the country and the rest of the world, the amount of time that we're spending at home. And I can only do so many home projects. I put in a new backyard, right? I put in a new backyard. I put in a new side yard. I put in a new front yard. I put in lights and things and the inside. And I'm running out of things to do to keep my brain active. But I have found, and just like you, I do a lot of writing. Obviously prep for the show, but I write columns and I write for people, and I'm working on projects all the time. And I am normally very prolific. I can just, right? I stall. I've never stalled before, right? I've never had a problem with that. And if you and I are having these issues, isn't everybody else?
Oh, I think so. I'll wake up in the morning and go on Facebook, and 4 hours later, I'll be watching MMA videos on Facebook Watch. That's not good. So, hey, this will all be over soon enough. But you know the worst thing? Not being able to find a word while you're just bloviating is one thing. What really scares me is I'll be trying to remember the name of some movie star from maybe 30 years ago that I've only seen all their movies and used it 1,000 times. That name's not there, right? And then finally, I'll go through the alphabet, I'll work on it, and I'll think. Sometimes I have to go to Google, and it'll be, Rock Hudson. Right?
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
that is scary.
Yeah.
That's very scary.
Yeah, Rita and I did that the other day, and was like, what was his name? And looked at, Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
how is this happening to us? Well, this is the other thing. We've got a lot to talk about tonight, but one of my challenges today, because in the past, I wake up, I've got stuff to do, I got places to go, I get up, take a shower, get dressed, feed the dogs, head out of the house, get my day done, get over to the studio, right? Today, I find myself forcing myself to wear socks, to change clothes, to like put on jeans and a t-shirt, be a normal human being. I struggle with that now.
You're forcing yourself. I would think your wife is forcing you to wear socks. Wouldn't it start there?
She's wearing PJs and a house coat all day. We're full on into it. I can't wait to get through it. I kid about that. About that Rita's going to blow a gasket. That's not really what's going on. But I do struggle with it. Sure. I know that I gauge the country with my own actions. And if I'm having issues, I'm just average. We're all human. We're all doing the same exact things. So what do you do then to motivate the brain? What are you doing to keep moving forward?
Well, eating lots of comfort food, I have found, doesn't work.
No.
So I've done that. I've gone through unbelievable number of bags of those new, chips? What do you call them? Those snaps.
Yes.
Those snaps, those cheese snap thing that they're selling on TV. God, I'm addicted to those. But look, but remember, you got a wife and a yard and probably some house pets or something.
I do.
I've got no windows and just light bulbs here. I mean, there's all I can do is rearrange the books in the bookshelf. So you've been in jail. I've been in solitary confinement. All right. So I'm going to say that I'm under a little more stress, and I'm about to start doing a whole bunch of interviews, and I got to get my brain going here without using performance enhancing drugs other than caffeine. And So let's hope that today is the beginning of the revitalization of Steve's brain.
Well, so we are the minor leagues for your travel up to the big leagues in 20. Hey, that's good. We'll get you back in shape. I wanted to ask.
You're not minor to me, dude.
I'm just playing. I wanted to ask you this. Obviously, the elephant in the room for everybody is the political climate and the questions about what is going on, especially over these next couple of months heading into. And if we look at the clock, today is November 18th, so we are nearly to the day 2 months away from January 20th, and the country has seen a lot of protests and a lot of things. And Washington, D.C., this past Saturday, got their taste of it. Did you venture out? Did you go and check that out, or did you watch it on TV?
No, I have always wanted to go to a super spreader event. I hear they're really fun, but I took a pass because of my underlying condition. But there were about, I'm going to say, between 20 and 45,000 people.
That's a lot.
Certainly total. About 20% of them had masks. And so, no, I wasn't going to get near that. But I saw it on TV. Look, that's the fact is we've had, I think, the last 4 years have been the most unusual political 4 years, I think, in modern American history. I don't want to talk about the 1800s. I don't know about those. But in the 1900s and the aughts, this has been an unusual 4 years. So we've all seen things we've never seen before, had to deal with things in some cases we never dealt with before. And we've seen a lot of changes, and it's all been interesting. We've lived in, as the Chinese say, interesting times. And it is not unusual for such times to generate some pretty good things. Oftentimes for a society, a complex society, a period like this can generate some extraordinary things. So that's the way you want to look at it. And the new president is going to come into a caca storm of near unprecedented proportions. So we got to wish him well and look forward to 2021, which has got to be better than 2020. Of course, with me, as you know, Jimmy, all of these things I follow and I'm interested in. But I'm pretty much focused. I'm interested in the disclosure process. How is it? What's happening to it during these 4 years? And where is that going? And I leave the rest of all the political resolutions to smarter people than I. So but I've got a lot to say about the disclosure aspect.
Well, I don't know if you heard my opening rant, and for the sake of repeating myself, but there were a couple of points that I made there that I think are very interesting. And that is, we have the ability to turn back the clock. And if we go back to the shows that you and I did in 2014, 2015, and 2016 leading up to those elections, and what was going on with Bill Clinton on late night TV and Obama on late night TV and Hillary and her comments, and it seemed like there was a pretty good push, especially for the UFO community, where this stuff is being discussed out in the open. And then we know what happened in 2016. All right, that's fine. But between 2016 and 2020, what was different from the Obama years that lasted for 8 is these past 4 years, and certainly going back to 2017, which is 3 years, 2.5, 3 years, that President Trump had the opportunity given to him to address the UFO question. His son asked him about it, right? He was lobbed softballs, underarm pitches, while Tucker Carlson is on TV with Nick Pope every single night, right, discussing all of this stuff. The opportunity was there for the Oval Office to get involved. That really hasn't happened ever in history. And that opportunity went past us, didn't it?
Look, there have been a handful of moments during the last 4 years where the current president was bumped about the issue, not heavy-duty interrogation, not intense questions, but a light question from George Stephanopoulos, from Tucker Carlson, from his son, from Bartromo, I think it's Bartromo. But not that's not a lot. Clearly, it was in play, and obviously, it's been in play for a long time. But let's put that in context with the years prior to the election of 2016, as you referred to. Now, just let me bring your audience up to speed a little bit. All those articles, 400 plus articles that you might have read, some of them during that period, 2015, 2016, talking about Hillary Clinton and the ET issue, talking about Podesta and the ET issue, and Bill Clinton, Rockefeller Initiative, all of that. That was moi. All right. I arrived in Washington in 2014, December 2014, hired my public relations person back because I had a little bit of money. She's a longtime Washington pro, knows everybody in this town, knows all the media, and she's been doing PR for top-level people 35 years. And he's a friend of mine, so I got a deal. And we immediately started pushing the media in this town about this connection between the candidate, Hillary Clinton, Secretary Hillary Clinton, and the ET issue going all the way back to 1993. And the Podesta connection and her husband's connection. And we hit these stories. We hit the Washington Times, and we're eventually able to get some stories early on in the Washington Times about the Clinton ET connection, which is non-trivial given that she was the presumptive winner of the election. And this is a very big issue. And that snowballed because we put enough pressure on the Clinton campaign team, which included Podesta, that eventually he had to respond in February of 2015 with a very famous tweet. Now, it'll go down in history, and that's the regret tweet, where on his last day of leaving his job as advisor to Obama, he tweeted, "My biggest regret for this last year is once again not getting hashtag disclosure of the UFO files." And that launched a bunch of articles, and it just went from there. And it got so intense that she had to go on Kimmel, and he and her husband went on Kimmel, and Obama went on Colbert and Ellen DeGeneres show and so forth. All of that was happening. This was the biggest media coverage in a campaign of the ET issue ever in history, very much focused on not just any candidate, but the candidate assumed to win for sure. And so you're thinking, okay. Now, all of this is happening while Obama's president. So Obama could have seen all of that and watched it all going on and gone, whoa, this is a big deal. Let me look into this, and made a decision to go and do something on his own. In other words, there was 100 times more media activity and coverage of this issue and statements from the candidate than this time around, this last 4 years. Now, Obama didn't do it for a number of reasons. I think I know why. I think Obama was already been briefed in a sense by the Clintons and was part of their strategy. He was cooperating. He was on board. So he did not move there. And you're thinking, okay, with all that media, wow, something should have happened, something big. There's two reasons something big didn't happen. One, for reasons that to this day I don't fully understand, 25 news host moderators of the debates and the town halls for both parties, Democrat and Republican. As you know, there are 30 Republican candidates and whatever.
In the beginning, yeah, right.
I don't know how many questions they ask. There's 36 debates and town halls that they ask questions to get people to understand these candidates. Not a single one of those person asked a single question about the ET issue, in spite of the fact it was all over the New York Times and the Washington Post.
Right.
And I'd like to sit down with every one of them and go, can you honestly tell me, did you know anything about, had you seen those articles? Were you aware of at all about the Clinton connection to the ET issue? Or were you aware and made the decision not to ask that question, and why? It would be fascinating to have those discussions with these 25 news hosts. But they didn't. And as a result, there was not very, very unlikely that anything would break during the campaign. I was fine with that because I knew with a high degree of certainty that, as had been planned for years, once she won the presidency and entered the White House, one of the very first things she was going to do is go after the ET issue. She was going to go after the disclosure issue. She was going to go demand from the DOD the files that her husband asked for and never got. In other words, she was going to get the legacy for her and her husband and become one of the great presidents of all time. And so I'm fine with that. But then, of course, she lost the election. And so that's the preface to what's happening now. So while I've noticed some things happening and I pay attention to everything along those lines, be assured it's nothing like what happened 2015, 2016. Okay, so we have a new president. He comes into office, and who knows what's going to happen? Obviously, there was a lot of things up in the air. But something else happened of extreme importance during that presidential campaign of 2016. I was doing my thing. And I was having a great time, feeling good about it. I was talking to reporters all over the world. I was generating articles. I think there's like 120 news articles out there, New York Times, Washington Post, and so forth, talking about me, little old me. There I am. And by the way, I never got a call from a single news organization saying, Mr. Bassett, I saw you in the New York Times. Would you like to comment on this Clinton thing? No, they didn't call me. That's all right. So something else was going on that I didn't learn about until March of 2016. I knew nothing about this until then. And what we got in 2016 was only a teaser. And that's when Tom DeLonge, in March, gives it a very long 3-hour interview to George Knapp, Coast to Coast AM, Sunday show, what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And George, who's one of the top people in this genre and a top journalist, I mean, he's just a total professional, he made a huge deal out of this. In other words, the intro to this show, you thought that you were about to learn the cure for cancer here. I mean, it was a big deal. So my ears really pricked up. So Tom comes on, and over the next 3 hours, in a somewhat rambling fashion, Tom is not a rhetoric giant. I mean, he's a average guy, but he's talking about how he had meetings and got to meet people inside the government, high level people. He's not naming names, and that there's something big coming, and there's going to be some books and stuff. And he goes through some of the meetings he had and what he was trying to do. He was trying to get the government or the DOD to do something about getting files out and things like that. Okay, fine. So he's basically saying, I got something going here. I can't give you names. I can't give you a name of the project, but it's happening and big things are coming. And I'm listening to this and I'm going, Tom DeLonge is at that time a 40-year-old rock guy with a high school education, right? A big following, very popular, nice guy. Occasionally, I think he would go naked on stage or whatever the hell. And I'm going, there's no way this guy is involved in a major project being put together by high-level DOD and people, DOD, NASA, CIA people. I could not grasp that, But hey, it's a crazy world. And so I just stepped back and waited. Well, on that show in March of 2016 with Knapp, he talked about one of the very first things going to happen as part of this grand project was a series of books were going to be published, and one of them was going to come out very soon called Secret Machines, fiction as nonfiction. Well, a month later, my God, Secret Machines was published, and I realized at that point, whatever the hell he was talking about is real, and this could be a big deal, but we want to know more. Well, we didn't hear more. I mean, nothing was said after that, pretty much quiet. And the next thing that happened was before the election, WikiLeaks, Julian Assange does not like Hillary Clinton, and Hillary Clinton does not like Julian Assange. He dumps 50,000 emails out that had been hacked, probably by the Russians, from Podesta's servers, and dumps them out to the public. And those emails were designed to embarrass the Democrats. And I knew this would be the case. I knew there was ET, UFO, UAP stuff in those emails. I knew it was there. And I said, wow, this will be interesting. And so I started going through them as they came out. And sure enough, there's about 90 emails in there referring to UFO. I prefer to say UAP matters. And many of them had Tom DeLonge all over them. And what we learned is that in the lead up to the election that year, Tom had approached Podesta to engage him in this thing that they were putting together, whatever it was. He'd introduced him to certain insiders. They sat down for an interview. There were some photographs, and none of that was supposed to come out. That was
let me back up. I still have. I don't even care at this point. I'll text it to you. I have on my phone. This is before the WikiLeaks, and they text me this picture. Check this out. We're all together right now. Okay, and I look, and it's DeLong, Peter Levenda, Podesta, and like 3 dudes in uniform, but they are in this obvious Washington establishment. You know, the pink marble walls, the pillars, and in this ginormous room. And I looked, I blew up I was like, is that Podesta? Holy crap, you know? Yeah. And that's when I said, okay, I guess there's something going on. Like this photograph I'm looking at is the genuine article. I don't know where it was taken, but it was right. And then right after that, Podesta, WikiLeaks, and that pretty much ended as far as that relationship goes. I went through and found all of the emails in the Podesta files that had any ET connection, and they are on my website right now. You can find them. It's on there somewhere. I think it's in the blog section, whatever. Yes, the blog section in the Disclosure Wire blog. And then not only did I highlight them, but I also provided some commentary on them. So there's about 90 of those, and you can go see them on my website right now. Okay, well, this was very, very interesting, and of course, I thought fantastic. By the way, there's no indication that they approached the Republican campaign prior to the election. I don't believe they did. Okay, so now I'm really excited. I'm going, wow. So something big is going down, and I started to put the pieces together, and I think I know what's going on, but still no structure, no names. And then the election was lost. And I learned pretty quickly that was a big problem because some of the people that got outed in the Podesta emails were supposed to not be outed. Their names were not supposed to be in play. They had to sort of slip back into the shadows, and this whole thing just kind of shut down, and we didn't hear anything at all. Now,
and so
let me jump in right there, Stephen. We have to take a break. So this is a perfect spot for that. Let's get this break in. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, tonight, live from Washington, D.C. Stephen Bassett is joining us to talk about the new Biden administration. It's about to take over. And, of course, what this means for disclosure in the UFO question as 2021 enters the picture. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Hello, my name is Billy Carson, and I am a best-selling author and the founder of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Together with my team, we have built an all-new conscious streaming TV platform designed with every family member in mind. If you have ever wanted to travel the world and attend lectures and workshops from your favorite speakers but weren't able to, look no further. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. There are dozens of workshops and lectures from speakers you know and love. We have also included amazing categories to assure that your consciousness is entertained and elevating on a daily basis. Amazing interviews, ancient history, ascension knowledge, wisdom teachings, documentaries, conspiracies, mysteries, health and fitness, conscious cooking, meditations, finance, yoga, and so much more. To start your free trial on any mobile device or computer, surf to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4, ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Again, visit ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Listen, I know, and you know, that you've always wanted your first crystal skull. Or maybe you're a collector just like me, but you just don't know where to go to find the real thing. Then I met Carolyn Ford over at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Carolyn is the guardian of Einstein, one of the most respected ancient crystal skulls in the world. All of her unique skulls have been imprinted sitting with Einstein in his sacred lodge and are carved from the finest gemstone and materials. Imprinting is the process of receiving the ancient wisdom from the master skull or master computer. Einstein, the ancient crystal skull. To see Carolyn's current collection of crystal skulls, just visit her store at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com or click on the banner over on our site. Don't forget to use the promo code Jimmy at checkout to receive 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Jimmy. Finding your first or next crystal skull is easy. Just visit EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of fade to black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hello, I'm Julian. You're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers. We are also Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright-Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Stephen Bassett, live from Washington, D.C. Tonight, we're talking about the new Biden administration. It's going to come into play January 20th, 2021. They're about to take over, and what this means for disclosure and the UFO question, it is on everybody's mind. We do this every 4 years. And, Stephen, picking up where we left off before the break was... the momentum that was building up going into 2016 shifted. And then Tom DeLonge comes along, does that interview with Knapp, and we move forward quickly into, obviously, December 17th, 2017. The opportunities were there for the Oval Office, not only with the videos, pilots, the Senate started to get involved. Hearings were happening behind closed doors. All of this was an opportunity for the White House, but it seemed to, once again, get stalled. Is that, in your guesstimate, my opinion doesn't matter, is it just that President Trump wasn't interested in the issue?
I think that's true. It's also the case that the opportunity for disclosure has been before every president. Nixon, Reagan,
Carter,
Clinton,
Ford,
Bush, and Obama. They've all had the opportunity.
Right.
But the truth embargo, which is now in its 70th year, 70th anniversary, is pretty well managed and pretty intense and successful. And ending the truth embargo is no easy thing. It requires a lot of effort and gravitas and resources and so forth, and it just wasn't there. And so in that sense, Trump is no different than any of those other presidents, including Obama. But before I get to that, let me just quickly get us up to speed here. And that once the election went the other way, I knew that the disclosure process was dead in the water. And I was basically a disclosure activist without portfolio. I was not a happy camper. There was nothing from Tom DeLonge after that. They went completely. I knew that something was in the works, but I just sort of knew it's off the table. And so I stayed around a couple of months in California, and then I went to UK to practice my English and see if I can get into trouble over there. And I was over there for 7 months. And while I was there, after about 11 months went by, all of a sudden, Tom DeLonge's project was launched. October 11th, 2017. And I was watching it from there with dismay because it was a big deal. It was a huge deal. And all of my colleagues back in the U.S. were getting all these, media invites on TV. I'm in London. Nobody knew where the hell I was. So I didn't get anything. Right? So I left the field as the team was going towards a touchdown. The launch of the To the Stars Academy, let me be as emphatic as I can be. Whatever one thinks of it, then or now, as far as I'm concerned, on that day we crossed the Rubicon. After all these years, the disclosure process, the disclosure movement, which is an activist movement, it crossed the Rubicon. And there would be no going back. It was going to be forward, and it was going to be at a relatively fast pace. Exactly what would happen, we weren't sure, but it was the website, the initial launch, the video presentation they did, the people that were involved. I recognize, because of my background, how big a deal that was. And so for the next 3 years, as you know, we have been following the activities of the To the Stars Academy of Arts and Sciences, now referred to as the To the Stars Academy, because arts and sciences is too much, right? Went too far, right? To the Stars Academy, the TTSA. I know that you've discussed it on your show, so I don't want to get into it too deep, but or let me put it this way. Let me sum it up this way. And those that want to get the details, I've got a huge amount of material about the TTSA on my website, 400 articles about it linked, 170 video clips about it, and so forth. But here is what, in my view, happened. On that day, October 11th, it was announced that a non-governmental organization, an NGO, was launched as a proxy for the Department of Defense and even the military intelligence complex, frankly, in order to proceed with disclosure work, right, on their behalf, but not as a part of the government itself. Now you may say, what does that mean? It means this. There have always been people inside our government at all levels, military, agencies, NASA, political staffers on the Hill, that are aware of the ET issue. Hell, there's contactees throughout all of that. There's contactees in every major entity in the government. So they've always been there, and there's always been a certain support, very probably private, not discussed much, within the government, that it's time for the people to know the truth, and that the, quote, embargo should end. That's always been there. I think it's been there going back to the 50s and 60s. The point is that the government's position was clear and emphatic and heavily enforced. And so there's some people in there that favor it. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. And so that was the case for all those years. And the citizen science activist movement has been pushing against that, pushing against the government, educating the people, educating the press, in hopes to raise achieve a critical mass that could break through and finally get the truth embargo done. We couldn't do it. A lot of people tried, including me. We couldn't do it. And then the TTSA was launched. And so what did we learn from that basic launch? Okay. The group that was formed, with the exception of Tom DeLonge, were all high-level careerists in the military intelligence complex or defense contractors doing high-level secret work. Long-time careers, mostly retired, some on contract work, which is extraordinary. Never happened before. These are people that could continue to make lots of money, if not directly with the government, but in contract work. They had the ability to make all the money they want. And here they are joining this group that's going to be pursuing the issues related to the subject. Witnesses, research, technology, big deal, even education, all big deal, and a nice company, little company. And I'm going, what in the hell is going on? You don't do that. Anybody with that kind of career that does something like that, if we're talking about the past as prologue, immediately destroys their credibility, their legacy. They end up being treated as fools and buffoons. I don't care if you spent 30 years as an undercover agent for the CIA. You're now a UFO buffoon. That's the way it used to be. But apparently, no, that's not the case. And so what is going on? What was going on, in my view, was that a significant group within the military intelligence complex, probably centered mostly in the DOD, had gotten enough clout, I don't know, they established a situation where they could support this project and it would not be terminated or revoked by other elements within the military intelligence complex. In other words, they had backers. They had people covering them inside. And not Herman Kahn, but Semivan, in an interview with one of my colleagues, said exactly that. He said there's 30 or 40 people in the DOD that are sort of behind us on this. Okay, fine. Whose names cannot be mentioned. Okay, so they created this other group. It's outside of the DOD, fine. And why? Because that NGO can do stuff that the DOD could not possibly do. Perfect example. There is no way that a serving officer in the Department of Defense could walk out the door with 3 gun camera clips of extraordinary intercepts of UAPs by the U.S. Navy and walk them over to the New York Times in order to get a major story in the front page. That could not happen, all right? And there's a whole bunch of other, they simply could not do that. They are part of the national defense system, and the commander-in-chief is the president, and you don't make a move like that without the president signing off. However, a non-governmental organization, which happens to be made up of people with the careers and the connections and the security clearances and so forth, well, they could go over and give it to the New York Times, and that's what they did. And they gave them a lot more. They announced the ATIP program. They named names. They brought the gun camera footage and launched 2 front-page stories, which is extremely rare for the New York Times. Same authors, below the cover, not above the cover, above the crease, which I believe will go down in history as 2 of the most important news articles ever. And that, of course, was the next major event. And when that happened, I realized, oh my God, I see what they're going to do. I see that there's an agenda here. This is a bunch of guys that had nothing to do after they left the government employ, wanted to put something together so they would, keep busy, hang out, maybe drink beers in San Diego. Oh no. This is some very serious people with a very serious agenda. And what was that agenda? That agenda was disclosure.
Well, let me jump in. Why do you think that nothing since then has happened? It's been 3 years. We're going into our 4th year. Okay, there has been no more footage. The Pentagon looks like that cooperation, whatever was there, like you're talking about, where some events said we've got the support. That appears to have ended. Why do you think we haven't seen anything for 3 years, 3.5 years?
I have a strong opinion, which is my opinion. I don't have a communication with them. They don't contact me. They don't give me information. I have to make these assessments based upon the substantial amount of information in the public domain.
Right.
But my opinion is this, that their project was, their plan was to announce the TTSA after Clinton was elected during the transition period. Walk the stories down to the New York Times, which would then come out, December of 2016, while still in the transition. She's not even in the White House. And probably other stuff would have come out. So when Clinton walks into the White House, in addition to all those hundreds of articles in the media, which had excited a lot of people around the world, Clinton actually said she was going to release the files. She said we're going to create a study program and all this kind of stuff. And they're thinking, wow, something's happening. And then the TTSA makes that move in November of 2016. And so when she walks in the White House, the world is literally on fire about the possibility that Hillary Clinton is going to do it. And of course, she was going to do it. The platform was set. The media was on board. She's going to go down in history as one of the greatest presidents of all time. When she loses, of course, that goes out the window. And now what they're faced with, okay, we've sort of semi-outed ourselves. Actually, they didn't out themselves that much. It was WikiLeaks that really outed this. Something big was happening. And now we have a different president who is definitely not Hillary Clinton. What the hell do we do? Well, what they did was they just went silent. And I am sure there was a lot of turmoil and rethinking. I imagine some people quit. And the question was, do they go forward? And I think that in their mind, that the principal thing they were concerned about as they decided whether to launch at all and then what to do afterwards was this: what they're trying to achieve is, as I've said many times, the most profound event in human history. It is incredibly complex. It will have enormous implications. They know that. They're not stupid. And that they had to decide that, well, this particular presidency is unusual. It is not typical. It's not even, it's totally off the scale. And almost immediately, there is chaos. There's political chaos. The media is up in arms. Nobody knows what's going on. And they're thinking, do we dare try to make this maneuver in the middle of this chaos? In other words, would you go out in the middle of a Category 4 hurricane and try to play tennis?
No, of course not. So you're
wait till the storm passes.
You're referring to post the New York Times article and the release of the videos.
No, I'm referring to from the get-go.
Okay,
from the moment Trump walks in the White House.
But
they have to decide, do we go forward at all?
Yeah, but what I'm referring to is after those 3 videos, after the New York Times articles, and moving into 2018 to today, right? It's been 3 years. There hasn't been any other. So we're still kicking the same dead horse.
No. I think let me help you there.
Sure.
The first decision they had to make was, do we launch at all? So they waited 11 months. So during that 11 months, they're assessing the administration. They're assessing the political situation. How chaotic is it going to get? Will it settle down? What's going to go on? But also know that the disclosure movement never stopped. The public's interest in the subject was escalated dramatically during the campaign, as we talked about earlier, and it wasn't going to go away. And so they're kind of hung. They're hanging out there like on a rope between 2 cliffs. What do? Do we go forward? We can't go forward. Can't go backward? Can we go forward? And I think ultimately they realized that the idea that they could maybe just wait 4 years and see what happens was not an option. Plus, these men, they took an enormous commitment. They have other things they could do with their life, and so they're just sitting there. I guess, I don't know, maybe taking some projects, maybe going to the beach. And I think at some point they realize we simply cannot wait. We must launch. And so they make the decision to launch. Okay, fine. They launch in October. Now, they send the stories to the New York Times and to see what happens. In other words, at that point, it's like take a step forward, see what happens, and decide what to do next. And what happened was, in spite of the power of those 2 New York Times articles and all the media it generated,
and it was a lot. It was a lot of media.
In fact, I've got 600. I'm approaching 700 articles on my website linked to articles related to the TTSA. 700. But it was huge press. And guess what? The chaos of the political situation in Washington and the United States sucked it all up. It just subsumed it. And before you know it, that got shoved down. And then everything is about the political whatever. And they realized, well, it's not going to catch fire, all right? We put something out. And so I think they made the decision, okay, Now we have to go forward, but we're going to pace it. It's like a runner that wants to finish the race. And if they go too fast, is going to not make it. But if you run at a reasonable pace, you make it. And so they decided to start slow walking it, moving forward with the idea that the next major decision point will be after the next election, depending upon how that goes. And so over the next 3 years, you saw a slow pace of developments, which, if they'd happened in a short amount of time, would have been unbelievably significant. But because they were stretched out, people weren't picking it up. But boy, has a lot happened, all right? So they get the New York Times articles, fine. Another one of their projects they went forward with the show on History Channel, Unidentified, Inside America's Secret UFO Investigation, which ended up running for 2 seasons. They were able to get information out there and advance it, kind of careful, not a big deal. History Channel is not ABC. Decent audience, but not huge. And it's the History Channel, right? So okay, but that had some positive impact, and I was watching that, and they were trying to interface with the public, but it was tough because they're under very strong restrictions. They have a lot of restrictions they have to deal with. It's not easy for them at all, and so that was happening, and I'm going, okay, and the pace wasn't too fast, but the next major thing, really the next major project after getting the History Channel show out the door. And I didn't learn about this until, 2019, early, and this was part of their plan. Again, but slowly, much more slowly. Mellon, who was the political guy, went to the Hill and started taking meetings, private meetings, off-the-record meetings, appropriately, because they didn't want anything to catch fire, but they needed to start laying the groundwork for what they intended to do. And so Mellon goes on the Hill and he starts arranging meetings with committee chairs, and he brings in some of the pilots. As far as we know, it was primarily pilots that were sitting in on some of these meetings, but there could have been others. But basically they were I don't think they were official. I don't think there were official DOD briefings. The articles, like from Politico and other publications, said that they were DOD briefings. I think that is a mistake. I think this was Mellon and TTSA setting these up, not the Department of Defense. I could be wrong, but that was my understanding. And so they're meeting with these people on the Hill, and I'm going, wow, that's significant. And the only reason we knew about that is a couple of the people that were briefed, for whatever reason, acknowledged it. They didn't say details or anything. Let's see, Mark Walker, Mark Warner.
That's right. That's right.
And then Gene Shaheen, a senator. So they mentioned it, and that was supposed to be it. Now, a couple of these people actually did something.
Now, Mark Warner is on the Senate Intelligence Committee.
Ranking member of the Senate Intelligence.
That's right. With Marco
Rubio. So we knew that. We knew Gene
right.
Shaheen, and we knew Mark Walker. Mark Walker did something he wasn't supposed to do. Remember, these are off the record, private meetings to inform them. No action is expected. But Walker got a little pumped up. And so he fired off a letter to the Secretary of Navy, Spencer, basically saying, I heard from these pilots and there's something going on here and this is significant and why aren't you doing more? And Spencer sent him something back saying, usual stuff. Well, we're always interested or whatever. He didn't like that and he complained about it. Then Spencer got fired. I don't know if that was connected at all, but right around the same time. Walker wasn't supposed to do that, right? And so then he shuts up, all right? And we don't hear from him. Now, at one point in an interview, let me put it this way. It was clear from a number of statements that were made that there were a lot of these meetings going on. How many, we don't know. But there's only so many committee chairs, and that's who you want to talk to. I mean, they may have talked to some non-committee chairs or ranking members, but that's who you talk to if you're planning what I think they're planning. And so it could have been 10, 20, 30, but whatever. These are meetings. The pilots are talking to them. Mellon is talking to them and giving them a briefing, but we're not hearing about it. And that goes on for a while.
Let me ask you this before the break. I want to get this question in. Do you think that Mellon was using the verbiage UFOs, ETs, alien technology, not from planet Earth? Is that the way into Capitol Hill, or is he using other verbiage just to get the conversation going?
The key verbiage is national security potential threat.
Right. No little green men, attackers from Mars. Right.
No.
That's not where he's going.
And they don't say that in their public. They avoid that. That is something they cannot say, and they don't say, though it's not easy for them, right? But we can talk about that. We can talk about all the restrictions they're operating under. But no, they are approaching these committee chairs with matters of national security, and there's plenty of that associated with the ET issue, right? And the potential threat, and sometimes it's called threat. I would never use threat, but it's potential threat. And that's exactly what you have to say to people on the Hill if you want to get their attention. And it's also true of top-end media. You want to get the top-end media's attention, you need to put it into a context that is comfortable in national security. It's comfortable. Now, we try the field, the disclosure movement that I'm in has been trying to do that for years. But we're not former 30-year-old CIA people. We're not top-level intelligence guys. So people weren't taking us quite as seriously. They are taking these men seriously.
We need to take a break right here. And before we do, I want to remind everybody that last year, in talking about national security and what is going on, last year, websites shared over 100 trillion pieces of personal data taken from you. From websites like you are on right now listening to Stephen and myself. Think about that. Now, I don't like being spied on by anybody, advertisers, nothing. I use Virtual Shield VPN. If you want to browse the internet anonymously and privately and securely like I do, please visit virtualshield.com/fade to black. The links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. It's simple enough to do, and you can also click on the links below in the video description box. And when you do, you will get Virtual Shield VPN today for free. I am your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Tonight, Stephen Bassett is here live from Washington, D.C. We're talking about what's about to go down, and that is a new Biden administration is moving in, about to take over. What does it mean for disclosure and the UFO question? I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Do you want to be an official Fadernaut? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Old New England Soap is committed to producing the highest quality organic and goat milk soaps available anywhere. We take pride in using the purest ingredients and avoiding the typical shortcuts used by other soap makers. Because goat milk is what feeds your skin, we have formulated our soap to use the maximum amount of goat milk possible, 38%, more than double any other brand. Not because it's easy, but because our soap is always better. We are proud to offer you what we consider to be truly premium quality handmade soaps. What's more, our soap does not contain GMO ingredients, pesticides, sulfates, dyes, artificial colors, alcohol, or petroleum products. Try our new shampoo bar and pooch soap, and be sure to see all of the great scented woodwick soy candles that burn soot-free for up to 100 hours. Right now, save 15% on your order and get free shipping on orders over $45. Buy now at oldnesoap.com. That's oldnesoap.com. Not available in stores. oldnesoap.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
Telepath is a weekly digital newsletter filled with the latest paranormal news, trending topics, and fresh articles from some of the most popular critical thinkers in the community today. Stay informed on your favorite paranormal podcasts and live streaming talk shows. Interact with the Telepath and upload your paranormal story or pics. It could be featured in an upcoming edition. Sign up right now for the free Telepath newsletter at paranormal.radio. That's paranormal.radio.
Including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Stephen Bassett is here live from Washington, D.C. We're discussing the new Biden administration, January 20, 2021. New sheriff in town. What is going to happen with disclosure? And, of course, the UFO question as we head through the year. And, Stephen, we were just discussing before the break the Senate Intelligence Committee. I just got the press release out about Marco Rubio. You are quoted in this. We'll get to this in a second, but I was just reading this during the break, and I want you to get us all up to speed on that, because this is what we are talking about now. One of the things when it comes to the Senate Intelligence Committee and those politicians in Washington, what we were talking about before the break, is the verbiage that is used. And I'm not so sure, if I was a reporter, if I went up to a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee and said, hey, you know, so you guys are talking to the Navy about UFOs, that I think that somebody would spin their head around and say, no, that's not what we were talking about. We were talking about threats and what is going on in the airspace and keeping America safe. We weren't talking about little green men. Is that the response I would probably get?
If they were asked, they would give a sensible response. They weren't asked, so don't know. But again, let me try to provide you the all-important context, because we are going to get to the Biden administration and what's, I think, going to happen, believe me. But consider this. Well, let me talk about Rubio. Everything that you've been seeing since October, since the New York Times article, in one way or another, has been a response to that article. In other words, the article, they announced, okay, they launched themselves in October of 2016. Okay, fine, 16. But so what? It's when they deliver the stories to the New York Times that the game is afoot. All right, it's not going back. And so one of two things were going to happen at that point. Either one, the forces of embargo, truth embargo, would rise up and just push them back into the closet, right? And they'd all end up, I don't know, taking retirement and moving to nice sunny climates and playing golf. Or if the forces could not do that, if the Rubicon had been crossed and we were only going to go forward, then what they would have to do is start responding to this. And there has been, and this is what when you talked about what's happened since the New York Times article, and I'm saying a lot has happened, and almost all of it comes under the heading of the institutions responding to what just happened. In other words, what these guys have done, this New York Times article and so forth. And one of the things that we've talked about is that eventually they went to the Hill and started having meetings, all right? And those meetings have been kept private with a few exceptions. Mark Walker was one. He was out of line. He shut up, all right? And then we got a political response. And this time it was coming from someone far more powerful than Mark Walker, and that was Rubio, all right? And so what happened not that long ago, we're talking back in June, is that apparently as a response to the briefing that they had gotten from Mellon and whatever witnesses Mellon brought with him, that was given to both Rubio and the ranking member, Mark Warner. These are two big guys in the Senate. They made a decision, which I believe was Rubio's. I think he's the one that wrote it. He's the one that wanted it, not necessarily Warner, but I could be wrong, that we're going to make a move here. And the move was very clever. It was, let's put in the Senate Intelligence Appropriations Bill some language that says, hey, we've been hearing about all this information and the pilot reports. We need to know more. We want you to start providing some info to us. We want the files. It's just like Clinton wanted the files. Everybody wants the files. And so we're going to put it in there, and we're going to give you 180 days from the time that the bill is signed to provide those files to the Senate Intelligence Committee. So what's going on here, right? Understand, and by the way, the context for everything I'm saying is this, and I want your listeners to keep this emphatically in mind. All the stuff that's happening is great, but understand this. The United States government has been investigating ET phenomena for 70 years, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year. They have programs up the yin-yang. They are all deeply classified. There's tons of people inside the government that know about the ET presence, are actually dealing with it in one form or another. And so everything that's happening is in that context. In other words, it's kind of a game. There's the whole thing over here, and then there's what's happening in front of you right now.
Right.
But we can't acknowledge the other, so we have to do what we do. Okay. So Rubio comes up with this. It's brilliant. What has he done? First of all, Rubio has just inserted himself in the disclosure process. One of the few Republicans to do it, period. All right. Mark Walker was Republican, so he sort of inserted himself, but he's not Rubio. And so Rubio's inserted himself into the process, which puts him in play and ahead of the game. But he's done it in a totally safe way, because what he's asked for ain't going to come until next year. In fact, that bill hasn't even been signed by the president yet. So it'll probably maybe get signed later this year, maybe, I don't know, end of November, December. And it's not until June of next year. And Rubio's not up for election, right? I think Warner is, but he's a lock. And so Rubio's totally safe for him. And he's in play, and he's part of the issue. That's him responding to the ongoing developments. So basically, it was a transactional thing, not so much Rubio becoming the leader of the disclosure movement, but hey, I'm one in the game. I see what's going down. Okay, so you got that. That's cool. And that's what that was about. Nothing more, nothing less. Now, keep in mind that that is a deadline of 180 days. The agencies, they can provide files sooner than that. Though probably not until after the bill is signed. So keep that in your mind for a second as we go back to talk about a couple other things, and I'll come back to this. The other thing that was going on in the 3 years that you referred to is this. I'm pretty sure about this. I could be wrong, and I'm happy to be corrected by any TTSC people. I just call me up and say, "You got it wrong, Steve. Here's the way it is." I'll say, "Fine, I'll correct it." When the TTSA launched in October 2016, they hadn't sent out an email to the rest of the government prior to doing that. They didn't send an email to the Navy and the Air Force and the Army and NASA and Lockheed and the Defense Department's front office saying, hey, we're going to launch this project. We're going to be going out looking for research and getting involved in the ET issue and what have you. Had they done that, the forces of darkness would have shut them down fast. And so when they went public, not just the launch, but also the New York Times articles, they caught the rest of the government pretty much flat-footed. They got surprised. There might have been some rumors floating around in the lunchroom of the DOD maybe, but in terms of the official rest of the government institutions, they didn't see it coming. And so, whoa, what are you going to do? Well, they couldn't shut it down, and so They had to respond. And you start seeing these responses one after another, they're paced out. Remember I talked about the slow walk? One of the first to respond was the Navy. You see, the Navy really got caught with his pants down. Because what did they do? They delivered all these gun camera footage. They were all Navy gun camera footage from Navy F-18s of all these craft flying around their aircraft carriers unimpeded. And worse, the Navy's known about it since 2004 and never said anything. They shut people up. They took hard drives. And so the Navy is kind of in a pretty embarrassing situation, isn't it? It's not looking good for the Navy. They didn't want this. So what do? Well, you get on board. In other words, if we've crossed the Rubicon, as the train is leaving the station, and you want to be on the right side of history, you better get on that train. And so the Navy started playing ball. The first thing it did was announce, and I've got the articles to back all this up, the first thing it did was announce we're altering the protocols for our pilots to report, right, these things, right? So we don't want this to slip through the cracks. Okay, fine. The next thing they did was to say, we've actually set up a system and we're encouraging our pilots to report and so forth. Okay, that was nice, okay? And then they really did something cool. Again, some time goes by, and then what do? The Navy comes out and confirms that the video clips were, in fact, of Navy planes intercepting UAPs. That was a big deal, a very big deal.
They did one thing in that press release where I don't know if they were covering their bases or how, they want to play both sides. But one of the things that Susan Gao said was that there is nothing in these videos that shows classified technology.
Oh, I feel so sorry for her. You see, Susan Gao, that's defense spokesman, she was caught completely unawares. It hit her, totally blindsided her. She had no idea. And so that thing breaks, and suddenly everybody's coming to the Pentagon's office wanting to know what's going on, and she doesn't know what's going on. And so the Pentagon was in a really tough position, and as a result made a number of incorrect statements, got things wrong, made this statement. They were just, they made a fool of them. I don't think they wanted to, but the Pentagon's front office did not know that this thing was being launched, and those articles were heading to the New York Times. And so she said a number of things. You can just dismiss it all. Now, eventually the Pentagon caught up with the situation, okay, and realized, okay, the horses are out of the barn, let's saddle up and ride along. And so the Pentagon did something very important. What did the Pentagon do? It confirmed that they released those videos and confirmed that those videos were legitimate. That was significant. The Army got on board. It did something it didn't have to do. It announced that it set up a CRADA, which is a cooperative research and development project with the TTSA to look at materials, right? Material and parts and stuff. They didn't have to do. That's not a big deal, but that was the Army's way of saying, hey, we're trying to help here. We're giving legitimacy to it. It's not a big deal, but we're part and parcel. Okay, good. Again, you're seeing responses to this going forward, one after another after another. And then, of course, you've got the responses from Rubio. And so that's what was going on over these 3 years as we move forward. Now, while they really started slow walking, but things started to come back to life earlier this year as they started to get a better assessment of the political outcome. Christopher Mellon launched his Twitter account in April of this year and started using that to communicate, which is a very good way to do it. Elizondo got his Twitter account going in August, and they started talking to people and having little Q&As and stuff on Twitter, all good, kind of just getting more involved. So what are they expecting? All right, to put it as simply as possible, the TTSA understands that if they're going to complete this project, it needs to be in the most stable political environment that is possible at the time. The more stable, the better. You don't make a move like this in the middle of a bar fight, right? You don't walk into a bar fight and start to, I don't know, talk philosophy or try to get consensus on something. You're just going to get hit in the head with a chair. And so they're assessing it, and they're seeing it go forward. Now, eventually, there were 4 possible outcomes that they were looking at in terms of their next major move, and they were straightforward. Trump wins, Republicans hold the Senate. Trump loses, Republican holds the Senate. Biden wins, Republicans hold the Senate. Biden wins, Republicans lose the Senate. Now, what would be the most stable environment? I think my assessment, my view, opinion is this. The most stable environment is that the president, the House and the Senate and the president are all the same party. The same party controls the committee chairs on both sides of the aisle. And therefore, you have less partisanship. You might be able to move forward more quickly. That would be ideal. The next best would be probably Biden winning, Senate's hold the House, and the Republicans still hold the Senate, but it's close, right? One apart. That wouldn't be too bad. So what's going to happen? Well, eventually it became clear that Trump was probably going to lose. Okay, fine. So I think that prompted them to pick things up a little bit. And now we know that the Senate is possibly could go either way. So essentially at one point, I think they realized it's a go. It's a go for next year. So what is next year? This is what I'm going to be talking about on dozens, if not scores, of interviews over the next 3 months. I'm lining up interviews like crazy. I've been out of the game for a while. I'm ready to get back as soon as I can get my vocabulary going. So what I believe the agenda all along has been this. The pathway to disclosure, responsibly, appropriately, should be, and always should have been, through congressional hearings, which is why for years we have tried to get congressional hearings. There have been many attempts to get them. The last congressional hearing was 1968. It was one day. The testimony was quite legitimate and serious, but the hearing wasn't. It was all part of a wrap it up. Here we did something. Now let's move along, folks. Leave us alone. The next year is when they shut down Blue Book.
That's right.
Right? Hey, we're not studying anything. Then they moved to close down NICAP. That was 1968. That was 52 years ago. Okay. So we tried to get hearings. Greer tried a couple of times. I tried to get hearings. There were 2 or 3 other attempts I'm aware of. They didn't work. You just couldn't get them. There wasn't a critical mass to get it done. All right? Okay, fine. But that's the way it has to be. Because here's why that's appropriate. You hold hearings. You bring in high-level witnesses. They testify for a couple of weeks under oath with hundreds of millions of people watching around the world. And at some point, enough evidence has been clearly stated that the DOD and the White House and leaders of Congress can get together and say, well, it's pretty clear from the evidence, this is non-human. This is a non-human technology we're dealing with here, and I think it's time to confirm that. And the president makes a confirmation, which would almost be anticlimactic. And so everybody wins. The Congress wins. Both parties win. The president wins. The people win. The DOD wins. Everybody wins. It has to be through congressional hearings, which is why I spent a small fortune holding the citizen hearing on disclosure in 2013 to show all the members of Congress who bothered to ever look at it and the journalists and so forth what hearings like that would be like. I mean, they knew how to hold hearings. I wasn't telling them that. I was saying, here's what the testimony would be like. Here's what the Q&A would be like. See, it's really cool. It's pretty intense. That was the reason I did it. Maybe it helped. I don't know. Right? And then I launched a political initiative under Clinton's election campaign. So that's the way it has to be. And I think they totally agree. And so what is going on? Mellon went up on the Hill to hold the meetings with the committee chairs in preparation for hearings next year.
Do you consider? Yeah, let me. Do you consider Mellon like a proxy lobbyist?
Yeah, no. Well, he is basically lobbying. I don't think he's a registered lobbyist.
Right. He's not, is he? I don't think he is.
No. But he's a political professional, known on the Hill with contacts. He can speak to any committee chair at the highest level. Right. He's major league pro.
No, they will take his phone call. There's no doubt about it.
So and of course, but when he goes up on the Hill, all the spade work has been done. They have generated massive media. They have brought forward scores of witnesses. That was one of the key things they had to do, was the witness issue. That's the other thing I haven't mentioned. What do I mean? Well, one of the effects of the New York Times articles was to really lower the bar for witnesses to come forward. We've had witnesses coming forward for decades, but not a lot, because, you know, it's not necessarily a good idea. And if you're military, you've got security clearance, all these reasons why it's best if I just don't say anything. But with those articles coming forward, and then the pilots coming forward, Fravor and the others, and nothing happening to them, there's these thousands of guys out there and women who are going, hey, apparently you can talk about this. I've got some great stories. Let me come forward. And so that set that in motion. And then they launched the series on History Channel. And guess what they've been doing on most of those History Channels? They've been bringing military witnesses on to talk about events. Not just Nimitz, not just Roosevelt, others. And guess what happened when they did that? More witnesses started contacting him. Elizondo's the point guard there. He's the one that's handling the witnesses, and he's the one that is vetting them. Now, DeLong mentioned at some point that hundreds of people have contacted the TTSA, the majority of which are military people saying, I got a story. And so for the last year and a half, while at the same time Mellon's up on the Hill preparing for hearings by talking to committee chairs, the TTSA is taking testimony and vetting military witnesses to events related to, quote, UAP phenomena. Now they've got the witnesses, they've got the committee chairs, and so the plan is simple. Shortly after the election, after the inauguration, I believe you're suddenly going to learn that some hearings are going to take place. The hearings are going to be almost exclusively taking the testimony from military witnesses only. And the context of the hearings is national security as related to a potential threat from this, quote, unidentified aerial phenomena, including nuclear weapons tampering, by the way. And those hearings will quickly expand, both chambers, under oath. And the audience for these hearings, Jimmy, pick a number, 200 million, 300 million. It might even approach the level of the Olympics. These will be the most watched hearings in all of history. And those hearings lead to disclosure. That is what I believe is coming. I think that was the agenda all along, except those hearings were to start early in the Clinton administration, not early in the Biden administration.
Have you've been at this for so long now, have you ever heard Joe Biden mention UFOs?
No, but let's talk about Joe. Let me give a little context for Joe. A lot of people may not have thought about this. The primary political connection to the ET issue is the Clintons, period. No other political group in the country has this connection. It goes back to '93 and the Rockefeller Initiative and continues forward because the Clintons didn't let it go. After Clinton left in 2001, they could have let it go, but no. And the person that basically kept dropping the breadcrumbs was Podesta. He was assigned the job of keeping this issue in our portfolio, and he did. 2002, 3, 4, 5, 6, you could go on. I could talk a lot about that, but most people know about this. So Podesta is keeping it alive. Even President Clinton made a couple of remarks in interviews, keeping it alive. Why were they keeping it alive? Because Hillary Clinton left that when Bill's term was over and she walked out, they walked out the door. Hillary Clinton was both angry and determined. She was absolutely enraged that the Air Force had completely bamboozled her husband, spent $20 million or something on a totally bogus whitewash report, right? That was announced in '97, stonewalled him.
Are you talking about the GAO, the Roswell report? Case closed.
The Roswell report, and then but the Air Force report was pushed together. It might have been called Case Closed. I forget.
Yeah,
but
I think so.
Right. This is Sheila Wignall, who was a great person and a superb, I think, public servant. But for whatever reason, she signed off on that report. So in other words, they stonewalled her husband. He could have been one of the greatest presidents of all time. Not only that, but they attacked him on everything they could for 8 years, impeached him the whole 9 yards. Hey, he was not a perfect man. The point is that she left, she was mad, and she was determined to do two things. One, to be the first woman president. All right. I think everybody agrees to that. But what they may not know is that she intended to be the disclosure president. She was going to go in the White House, and she was going to go to the DOD, and she wasn't going to get stonewalled. Because at that point, There was enough out there. Our movement had worked pretty well. People were educated. And she was going to tell the DOD people, either I get those files or you're all going to be retired.
Do you think it's I've got 2 minutes. Is this a blue-red Democrat Republican issue?
It is basically blue, but it's not. It's simply because that's the way history went.
Because Marco Rubio, I mean, seriously, that video came as close to saying, little green men. He was right there, right?
They constantly dance around it.
Yeah.
They constantly dance around it, but they can't actually say it.
He was close. He was close.
I know. Well, Mellon's gotten close. They've all gotten close.
Right.
But they're not allowed to say it. The point is that if George Bush had won the election, his second term, instead of Clinton, Rockefeller told several people that he fully intended to go to George Bush and ask him for the files, and we might have gotten them. But it turned out to be Clinton, and so it was simply his luck of history. And the Republicans could have embraced it at any time, but they never did.
So it's your if you're going to have an estimate of the situation, I couldn't wait to say that to you, by the way. If you're going to have an estimate of the situation, you're saying that it is solely because it's not a Republican Democrat issue. It's that the atmosphere, the temperature is going to come down in Washington, and that is going to allow this to move forward. There's no bar fight going on.
Look, Hillary Clinton, the Clintons were not going to help George Bush be the disclosure president. That's for damn sure. They weren't going to do that. Then she expected to win in 2008, and history provided a change there. She didn't win. Another question was, do we help Obama possibly go ahead and do this? It'll still be a Democrat, so we'll get grandfathered in, or do we wait it out? Ultimately, she made the decision to wait it out. That's a longer story. So, again, the thread has been carried forward by the Clintons, but it is ultimately a nonpartisan issue, without question. And one of the reasons these hearings will take place is that, boy, I'll tell you, the United States Congress desperately needs a major nonpartisan issue that they can hold hearings on with millions of people watching and ask intelligent questions and not have to posture and play political games, and everybody looks good. Oh, they need this really badly. So that's one of the reasons I think there won't be too much resistance.
Well, and it is a Republican-controlled Senate.
So far.
I think it's going to stay that way, but I don't think that's the issue. I really don't. I think it's a world issue. It's an American issue. It's not a Republican Democrat. I definitely think it's nonpartisan. It has to be that way. We're citizens of Earth.
I think the Democrats are almost certainly going to get one of the Georgia seats, so it'll be 51-49, which is very tight. And so I don't see McConnell having any reason to push back against hearings like this. They do not in any way threaten his political position. And they do offer an enormous opportunity for these politicians to look good, addressing in a proper and formal way the most profound issue in human history. Who doesn't want to do that?
That's right.
Because the stigma is off.
I need to take a break right here. Okay. So this is a yes or no question. It's not up to McConnell. It's up to Marco Rubio, isn't it, for his committee?
Look, if the Senate Majority Leader wants to really prevent hearings from going forward, he has a lot of leverage. I'm not saying it's absolute, but he could be obstructive, but I don't think he will be even if they're holding the Senate.
Let's take our break right here. Our guest tonight, Stephen Bassett, live from Washington, D.C. We are talking about the new Biden administration, about to be sworn in January 20th, 2021, and what that means for disclosure and the UFO question. Great show. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hi everybody, this is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station. Salt Lake City, Utah. Van Buren, Arkansas.
Why is it we're not very good with our health regimen until it's too late? We don't put oil in the car until the engine blows up. When the body's out of balance, your health is not so good. Give your body some love. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Try our Life Change Tea, which cleanses you from harmful intruders. A clean colon is one of the ways to bring the body in balance. We also carry organic supplements to help you get where you need to go. So do your body a favor. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. You can even visit our sales page to save some dough. Does anybody call money dough anymore? Anyway, if you're looking for short, helpful health tips, go to YouTube and punch in Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now. So, log on to getthetea.com, shop, get balanced, then learn some cool tips at Health Matters Now. You'll be glad you did. That's getthetea.com.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRAradio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from Rivermoon. Just click on the Rivermoon Coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B Blend. Let's face it, you've always wanted to do a sky watch and see your first UFO. Today, it's easy. Just get your own HP7 3B Cobalt Jimmy Church Edition night vision goggles from Hoffman's Optics. This is the same U.S. military system that I use, featuring a Generation 3 blue phosphor image tube. That's right, it's blue, not black and green. This is the only blue system in the world, and it's waterproof, lightweight, combat-proof, simple to use, and ready to go. Hoffman's Optics helped create night vision sky watches, and now you can see what everyone has been talking about each night from your own backyard. Just call 760-231-9929. That's 760-231-9929. You can click on the banners on our site or visit UFOnightvisiongoggles.com. That's UFOnightvisiongoggles.com. Go back, Lee Tepe.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRAradio.com.
When you're in the house for longer periods of time, you can see them flying or running across the floor. Ooh, yuck. They're unhealthy, gross, and disgusting. Bugs. I loathe bugs. We keep a clean home, but occasionally bugs show up. Well, I found something that is tougher than bugs. Orange Guard. On contact, it kills hidden bugs, including ants, roaches, and fleas. Plus, Orange Guard is a residual repellent. All of the ingredients of Orange Guard are on the FDA generally recognized as safe list. Orange Guard may be used around food, humans, and pets. It comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Orange Guard. Available at orangeguard.com, Whole Foods, and Ace Hardware.
Telepath is a weekly digital newsletter filled with the latest paranormal news, trending topics, and fresh articles from some of the most popular critical thinkers in the community today. Stay informed on your favorite paranormal podcasts and live streaming talk shows. Interact with the Telepath and upload your paranormal story or pics. It could be featured in an upcoming edition. Sign up right now for the free Telepath newsletter at paranormal.radio. That's paranormal.radio.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Stephen Bassett joins us. We're talking about all the action going on in Washington, D.C. We've got a new Biden administration that is coming into play January 20th, and what this means for disclosure and the UFO question throughout 2021. And now, talking about these hearings that should take place, and referencing this happening in the first part of 2021, that's exciting. But I want to back up for a second, Stephen. all of Washington watches Fox News, right? They all watch. Stephen's putting on his microphone. I can see him doing that. By the way, let me turn this down as you adjust, Stephen. You're making a lot of noise for the audience. But is this? They all watch Tucker. They've watched his UFO updates. They are quite aware. They're not watching History Channel, right? They're not watching Unidentified, but they are watching Fox News. And we just went through an election cycle and an election year, and not one question about the Navy, about the pilots, about UFOs, about disclosure was presented to any candidate by any journalist, anywhere, any debate. It didn't happen. Why not?
Interesting point. Well, as I stated, there was massive ET media coverage during the Clinton campaign, and not a single question was asked. This time around, there was just a tiny bit, very little, out there in the media about the political ET connection. So it doesn't surprise me that no one in those debates was asked. Now, this is a matter to be taken up one day with all of those fine multimillionaires that are hosting all the news shows that end up getting the moderator jobs. So you got some $8 million a year news host who has full carte blanche to ask any question they want. They're not supposed to be influenced by anyone, and they're making these choices. So I'd like to sit down with all of them and say, hey, why don't you go there? And there's other areas they don't go. So we need to reform the whole debate situation. We need to reform a lot of things. But that's the best answer I can give. By the way, Rubio essentially is an example of someone responding to what is going down, and so is Tucker. Tucker Carlson is an example of someone that figured out, hey, this is happening. Train's leaving the station, and I'm going to get on it. And he did. And why others in the CNN and MSNBC didn't, I don't know. Tucker is kind of a renegade. He got on it. So he has given more interviews on this subject in the last 3 years than any other, well, maybe all of the rest of the news hosts combined. Good on him. All right. But again, he's responding to the reality. And let me make another point that I think is important for context as people follow this. I have pretty high confidence that every single member of the TTSA, without getting into their clerical staff, or maybe a couple of like one of the financial people that was just brought on as a board member recently, but every of the key initial founders, you know what I'm talking about, every single one of them knows there's an extraterrestrial presence. They just can't say it, and I respect that. I understand why they can't, but they know. All right. So to get back to Biden, you asked me about what about Joe and his connection to the issue. Here's the way to think about it. The number one connection between politics and the ET issue is the history of the Clintons. During the Clinton administration and during the Rockefeller Initiative, which lasted for 3 years, Joe Biden was in the Senate, and he worked closely with the president on legislation. And plenty of people knew about the Rockefeller Initiative. It wasn't like this was all a secret. No, it was known. They didn't talk about it. It was one of those, well, that's going on, but that's not something we're going to talk to the press. So it's very likely Biden knew something like that was going on at the White House. And then years go by, what happens? Well, Obama wins the election, and he picks Biden as his vice president. And he picks Podesta as his campaign transition chairman to form the new government. So he's obviously working with Biden during that period. Then he brings Hillary Clinton in as Secretary of State. And so you got John Podesta, who eventually comes into the White House as an advisor, and Hillary Clinton's in there, and Biden is the vice president. You don't think there wasn't an opportunity for the Clintons to sort of bring Joe up to speed?
I would think that was a conversation more than once.
I would think so. And so Joe's had plenty of time to be, and he is he's a careful man. He's a centrist, a moderate, but he's liked and respected. And the idea they're going to keep him out of the cold, I don't think so. And so he, I think, knows about this. He said nothing. That's fine. But don't be surprised if when things go down next year, Joe gets on board real fast. All right. And that's fine. Okay. I don't have a problem with that. So again, the history of this is primarily a Democratic thing. Now, one of the advantages of hearings, as I pointed out, is that if you go through hearings to get the disclosure, you're going to have extraordinary testimony from, it'll all be military witnesses initially. You're not going to get to civilians until later. And all of the Republicans on these committees will be able to ask important questions and be seen on television doing that. And so the Republicans are given a chance to be part of this. They're going to get a piece of the action, as it were, and that's great. And that's the way it should be. In other words, the hearings will departisanize this, even if the Democrats control all the committee chairs. Because in most of the hearings that are held have been embarrassing, because they're mostly political and hyper-partisan, and everybody's posturing, and it's almost painful to watch. This will be totally different. This will be riveting. This will be exciting, and it will be powerful, and people will be very pleased that both Democrats and Republicans are conducting themselves well, and that's good.
I wanted to ask you about Podesta for a second. And I know for this audience, it just bringing up his name just stirs emotion, and I get that.
Shouldn't.
But, let's discuss it. As soon as the WikiLeaks dump happened, and I talked to DeLong. I talked to him on the phone when all of that was going down. As a matter of fact, I'll say something publicly right now I've never mentioned before. After that day, when the email dump happened, I'd gotten an email from Tom the day before. And the dump happens. And I sent Tom an email. Dude, what's going on? It got kicked back. Right? And later on that day, I got an email from Tom. This is my new email. Right? The other one's been shut down. Podesta was silent, and then Pizzagate happened. And Podesta's name got muddied with the UFO situation and tied into WikiLeaks, and then of course Pizzagate. We haven't heard from Podesta since. Why is that?
Well, they lost the election, for one thing, and so at that point.
But he was still fully engaged after the election.
No, you have to understand something. Hillary Clinton wanted to be the disclosure president. She wanted to be a first woman president. She lost it. That opportunity was almost certainly lost forever. And the Clintons and Podesta could have called a press conference in February of 2017, brought in top people, maybe Maureen Dowd or something, and sat down and spilled the whole beans. Could have told them everything in their interest in the ET issue and why they thought it was real and blah blah blah, and blown the whole thing up. And you know what would have happened? Donald Trump would have been the disclosure president. And she would rather pull her toenails out with a pair of pliers than have that happen. And so they went silent, period. It's the TTSA that picked stuff up, but they went silent, right? Waiting for things to change.
Podesta did do the interview on Ancient Aliens. He did.
A little Ancient Aliens, not
right?
much. I mean, just a little bit. There he was. That's okay. So they had to go silent. I get that. To be expected. And by the way, look, the United States has been in systemic decline for actually going back to 64, the last 30 years, even worse. The internet came along. We didn't ask for it, but by God, we loved it, and we're living with it now. And it's no trivial thing, right? It's not like, oh, gee, we have the internet. It'll be nice. No. Incredibly powerful, dangerous, and wonderful piece of technology. The last 30 years has been pretty much everybody running around tossing dead skunks through other people's windows and stinking up the whole house. So they have to flee the back door. I get it, right? We're in a new age, the age of libel, right? Everybody libels everybody now. The law can't even keep up with it. I understand. Conspiracy theories are literally raging like across the plains. And it's the new reality. We haven't adjusted yet. And people regular people are overwhelmed by the massive communication power of the net and social media, all of it, right? And the fact that huge money and institutions are investing in propaganda through these channels. And so people's brains are being filled up with stuff day in and day out. I feel sorry for everybody because not everybody's got a PhD or degree in science or whatever, just regular people trying to make a life. And they've got stuff coming at them from every direction, not simply randomly, but people trying to influence them, alter their worldview, pollute the situation. And a lot of them are basically state actors who are pros with vast resources designed to screw your mind up. Hey, when has that happened, right? So we are in a new place, and there have been many casualties, and there's going to be more, and it's affecting everything, all right? And so all I can say is, hey, I use what I know and learned in my life to assess these things as they come along and do my best to sort the propaganda from the reality. Other people try to do the same. Some are not as successful. And so there may be somebody out there that believes Pizzagate 100%. I lived in Washington. I know that place. I know what goes on down there. And I assure you, it's utter nonsense. But am I going to be able to convince somebody else of that? No. So Podesta has had to deal with that, and many others are dealing with stuff like this. One conspiracy theory out of 100 is probably true. I believe that. The trick is figuring out which one is that. So ultimately, we got to get back to tending our gardens, moving forward, and trying to get things done. And one of the things about the ET issue is that so much effort has been put into it by so many people for so many years that we have a substantial body of evidence that by and large resists conspiracy theories. If you want to try to generate a conspiracy theory in this field, you're on fairly shaky ground. There's just so much that can be brought forward and say, wait a minute, that's
I agree
not
with
right.
that. I agree with
so,
that.
So, you know, we're not suffering too much from that. So again, Joe Biden, I don't think is going to be on board if he isn't already. The stable environment that the To the Stars Academy needs is coming, and they're going to hold these. The obvious question is, why early next year? Right? Why not 2 years from now? All right. And I get to ask this question, and I'll be asked this question again. Here's my answer. I believe that when Clinton got in, she was going to hold hearings right away. And in this case, it's even more important. Here are the reasons why it needs to be early next year. And if they don't do it, it's a colossal mistake. Once you become president, all kinds of stuff happens, and you're dealing with all kinds of issues and crisis and this and that, whatever the hell. And it's extremely easy to kick it down, kick the can a little bit, move it off. Can't do it right. Let's do it in the next year. That's part of the reason why the truth embargo is in its 70th year. All right. It keeps getting put off because it's so hard. All right. Got that. Okay. And so we don't want that. Secondly, Biden is coming into an FDR situation where everything has gone completely to hell. And he's got problems that I don't even want to think about. They give me a migraine just thinking about them. He needs all the political capital he can get to maybe get something done. And I think Americans, regardless of your political persuasion, want something done desperately. Now, having hearings like that take place and ending up being the disclosure president will give him enormous political capital, worldwide accolades coming in, right? Elevation in stature. And he will go down as the great truth teller. That is political capital he can use to get things done. You don't put that off. You want that capital up front. So that's another reason. Here's a third reason. The world's people are like tired. They are burned out. They have been through hell, and the hell is going to get even worse over the next 4 months. How many people have been infected? It's probably approaching 1 billion, maybe. How many will end up dying by that time? Maybe 2 million. That's not a huge number, but the number affected by the economic impact, that's in the hundreds of millions, if not billions. So this has been a miserable time. They desperately need something potent, something powerful, something that's future-looking and special and exciting. It's basically the moon shot times 100, right? And so you provide this, and so people can look and go, "Wow, that's incredible," and start thinking about amazing future instead of, "I'm going to lose my business. I'm going to die of COVID. I haven't been out of the house in a year," that kind of shit. So what could be better? It's a perfect thing to have, and he's got it in his hands. All he has to do is go along with what the TTSA is doing. So that's the reasons. Now, but it's nevertheless, people change their mind. The reason I knew that Clinton was going to disclose early on. I was sure of it. Why did I launch this huge media campaign? Why did I drive all that press to get that stuff out there, hundreds of articles? Because I wanted to give her no back door. I wanted to make it impossible for her to change her mind. So that, like, she goes into office, it's going to be rough. Let's just put that off to the second term. No, I wanted no back door. Over the next 3 months, I'm doing exactly the same thing. I'm going to be doing scores and scores of interviews. I'm going to launch my podcast very soon. I've been waiting for the political situation to resolve. And during these podcasts, you're going to see me going through all of this and the whole history of the TTSA and what I expect and following any new developments. I'm going to generate lots of media. Why? I want to give the TTSA no back door. In other words, that's your plan. You're not going to change your mind, and I'm not going to allow the president to have a back door. I want to create a situation where once he goes into office, you've got people out there immediately sending in emails to the president. What's this about hearings? What's this about the TTSA? Are you doing something? What about, Mark, what's going on here? Are you going to respond to this? Right? And once he's in, the press are pretty now able to ask any questions they want. And so I'm hoping the press will step into this. They haven't quite yet, but I think they might. They've stepped into the TTSA, hundreds and hundreds of articles. Now I need to get the press to start focusing on, what about hearings? Why is Mellon on the Hill? Why is he talking to committee chairs? Because he just wants to go up there and hang out? What, can he have lunch, a free lunch in the House restaurant? He's only there for one reason, and that is to get hearings. They've gathered the witnesses. They've got the press pretty much on their side. All they need is some committee chairs to say we want the hearings. If the president doesn't make us fuss about it, boom, we get them. I want no back door, and that's why I'll be doing the next 3 months.
Does it concern you that TTSA, wholly staffed by spooks, right? Counter Intel, CIA, Department of Defense, top to bottom, that their controlling of the message comes from one point of view going in to Washington? Doesn't that concern you?
That is a professional question, sir. You are a consummate pro.
I do what I can.
You know your way around. Yes. Look, there's two sides to this coin. One of the reasons they're able to do what they do is that their careers give them a level, and particularly collectively, give them a level of gravitas nobody in this field can even approach. All right. And they're not just ancient guys. I mean, a lot of them are fresh out of the government. So they have the background, they have the contacts, they have the gravitas. The New York Times is going to listen to them. Ralph Blumenthal is going to write about it, whatever. 2-time Pulitzer Prize winner. So they have the gravitas we didn't have, and that was necessary. Call it the critical mass. But there is another side to the coin, right? Perfectly legitimate to bring it up. They're on the Hill briefing these chairs. They're on the Hill giving them the basis for go forward, which we already know is national security and potential threat. And the word threat is used without potential frequently in their activities. And I've commented about that. Okay. So the fact is that when they're talking to Congress, by definition, I mean, logically and appropriately, they are ultimately representing the interest of the military intelligence complex. And that's what you would expect. Why not? They're giving that perspective, primarily the national defense perspective. Now, I'm not saying they're not capable of addressing it from other perspectives. Lou Elizondo is a classic example of a populist. I mean, this guy could run for Congress and win like that, okay? I mean, he can relate to anybody. But their background, and by the way, they're not all spooks, by the way. There's some of them that are government people. Justice is an engineer manager from Lockheed Skunk Works, but some of them are spooks without question. So that's where I feel I may have a role. I've been pretty much on the sidelines trying to stay out of their way. But do I intend to try to get back on the Hill if they'll take a meeting eventually? Not now, later. Yeah. Am I going to go to the media with perspective on this? Yes. Because, hey, I'm a citizen activist. I don't represent, I never worked for I worked for the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation for 6 months, and I got bored. I don't have security clearances. I represent the public's interest. I always have. And so I'm going to try to provide to the Congress, if they care to pay attention, the public's here, not just the national security state's interest.
Well, and that's
hopefully they'll listen to me.
But that should be the concern, Stephen, that certainly from where I am sitting, is that if the image that is presented in Washington is that ET's bad, threat is there, we've got to protect the country, we've got to protect the world, and if that is in turn Biden's message as he steps up to the podium to make an announcement to become the disclosure president of a position of fear for the world, and that's what I'm afraid of.
Perfectly legitimate concern.
Do we want to freak out the entire planet? Well, they're already going to be freaked out.
No. Look. The whole national security threat issue, I'm following it very closely. I know it's going to be the focus initially. That's okay. We got to get the ball rolling. The question is, how far will they go, and will they be judicial and accurate in the presentations along those lines? In that regard, let me show you a couple of things I think that will impress you about these guys. Now, the two guys, the most important guys, are Elizondo and Mellon. All right, they're the ones that are setting all this up. Mellon's doing the politics and the Hill stuff, and Luis Elizondo is vetting the witnesses, almost all military. But I've listened to these guys, and I've watched what I've read what they've said and so forth. They're pretty good guys. Mellon and Elizondo are outstanding human beings. They're good people. And they are under certain constraints. But recently, something happened which really got my attention. Two things. First of all, they've done 2 seasons of Unidentified. The first had 6, and the second one had 8. And most of them dealt with witnesses and national security matters and what have you. The 8th one blew my mind. Because here's what they did in the 8th, very last Unidentified, which was, I don't know, a month and a half ago or so. There won't be another one this year. There may never be another Unidentified. So in other words, this is their final thing. They're going out the door here. What was the show about? It was about contact. They did the last show about encounters, missing time, things like that. Not surprisingly, it was all military guys. They have encounters too. And I'm going, wait a minute, they're addressing contact? They're putting that out there? That's risky, particularly if you're talking to Congress. What's going on here? It was a message. It was a message to the public, which includes a hell lot of contactees. We're not afraid of that issue. That issue is going to come up. Maybe not right away, but we're willing to go there, and we are going there. That showed that they are not totally narrowly focused. Very happy to see that. But something else happened. The very end of the show, you know how when you close out a show and the principal characters will make some statements, like usually it's narration. And so Elizondo and Mellon made their final statements at the very end of that Unidentified episode, ending the 2 seasons. And this is what they said. If you don't mind, I'm going to read this. Right?
Go ahead.
This is what Elizondo said. It was some people transcribed it and provided it. Here's what Lou said. What does it mean for us if we are presented one day with the fact that there are others, capital O, out there? Does it mean we are not as special anymore? Or does it mean that we have brothers and sisters that now we should start a new journey with? I think there is magic in that. It's wonderful to think that in the greater cosmos, billions and billions of light years with billions and trillions of stars and planets, that we are all part of this interesting cosmic neighborhood. Wouldn't it be amazing? Maybe we will be more human. Maybe we will learn to be more than human. If we have a chance to learn from something else, and therefore our definition of being a human being is expanded. That's Lou. Now here is what Mellon says. The phenomenon is real. These are not Russians, US, or Chinese vehicles. If there is another intelligence from another system, which is vastly more advanced and sophisticated than we are, and we are able to establish contact and communication, it would be the equivalent of possibly gaining hundreds of thousands or millions of years of knowledge in the days or weeks. Now, does this sound like 2 men who are going to heavily push ETs are a national major threat and we've got to spend trillions defending ourselves? Is this people that are that haven't made up their mind yet, and you listen to you read what they say. Look, they know it's extraterrestrial. It's clearly stated there, but they can't be emphatic about it. That violates the terms of engagement. And so this was them letting their hair down and saying, folks, it's okay. Don't get too concerned as we move forward with the witnesses to try to engage the national security aspects, to draw the Congress into this, the media into this, and ultimately make it possible for the president to confirm it.
Well, it sounds
so that was
like,
big for me.
Yeah, it sounds like those two listen to Fade to Black, and they've learned something. But and I'm not saying that in jest, by the way. I'm saying that quite straightforward. But I don't see the flowers and confetti being thrown around at hearings on Capitol Hill.
No. You can't go on the Hill and talk to committee chairs and say, look, hey, there's an ET presence.
Our space brothers, right?
Yeah. And like, hey, man, let's hold some hearings on how we're going to welcome them when they finally show in person.
Right.
Let's prepare for. Now, they can't do that.
Right.
It's not going to happen. They've got to go up there and say, national security clearly. Look, the number one most important area of evidence, as far as I'm concerned, is nuclear weapons tampering. The most important book ever written in this field, as far as I'm concerned, is Robert Hastings' UFOs and Nukes. All right?
Great book.
That testimony has been out there for a long time.
Yes, it has.
Hell, they brought witnesses into the press conference of the National Press Club. I was there. Media came in, listened to them, and then went off. No hearings, right? Nothing is more a clear connection between the ET presence and national security interests than the fact that they turned our weapons off, and we've got scores of military witnesses to that. So it's totally legitimate. Why are they turning them off? What's going on? So we haven't had hearings before. Now we can have them. Now they have included the nuclear weapons tampering stuff in 2 of their shows. It's clearly on the agenda. And so look for that to be there. But I'll tell you something. I've talked to a number of the witnesses to the nuclear weapons tampering, and I believe, and Bob Salas, I think, agrees, that most of them feel that this was nothing more than a message. Like, why the hell have you got these? You can't hurt us with them. All you can do is blow yourselves to kingdom come, right? Not, oh, we've turned your weapons off just to remind you that we're incredibly powerful and soon we're going to come and kill all of you. No, very few of them think that. And these are the guys that were there and experienced it. Now, all of this is still an assessment. The ETs will do what they do. We do not know their ultimate agenda until they do it or they tell us.
Mm-hmm.
But we have no choice but to try to assess and project what we think will happen, what's appropriate, and get through this the best we can without getting into bizarre theories and conspiracy stuff and other nonsense, which is being projected by people that have, no real serious interest in getting to the truth. And that's the best we can do. I've been in a long time. I'm optimistic that we're going to be very pleased with how this works out, with disclosure, with the hearings. And I believe that once we have the military witnesses testify for weeks, perhaps, and I think disclosure will take place. And then after disclosure, the hearings will continue. And then I think they will start bringing in civilians. They may bring in some of the citizen science people. They may bring in civilian contactees, military contactees, and the hearings will expand into the more exotic and difficult areas, public relations-wise. But after disclosure, people will be pretty generous in that. In other words, you clear the national security matter up first. You come to the conclusion that they're here. You confirm that. You come to the conclusion that based on the testimony, we should be vigilant about the possibilities of a threat. But overall, our statement is the same thing the Air Force was saying for 50 years when you sent them a damn letter. We don't investigate the phenomena, is what the letter said, but we don't see it as a threat. That's what the Air Force was saying for years, and they were engaging the ET issue for decades and had crashed vehicles and dead bodies. And so they're basically going to confirm what they said before, only this time it's part of a public disclosure process. Yes, vigilance, trust but verify, but they do not pose an immediate threat. Now let's move on and learn and tell you more about what we know, and let's come together as a global civilization to deal with the most profound transition that any planet could probably go through.
Yeah, that's right.
And move on.
Okay, so you mentioned the Rubicon, right?
Yes.
There's two Rubicons that would be presented and have to be crossed if these hearings go down as they should and the cat is out of the bag. First one, during these hearings, of course, Tucker and the media is going to be covering this. Does Tucker cross the Rubicon of going from pilots and Dave Fravor to talking about contact and contactees on Fox News?
Let's say
that's a big step, right? That's different from Navy videos.
History is messy. It's not clear. It's not simple. Look, once these hearings get underway, people are going to explode. Every researcher in the field's hair is going to be on fire.
But to answer the question directly. Do you see Tucker in his bow tie having a contactee on Fox News?
You can't rule it out.
Okay.
I think the media, while these hearings are going to go on, will be looking for everybody and anybody to get on the air.
I agree.
And they may want to get into the ET issue. They may want to get into a abduction issue. And the government can't stop that. And there'll be plenty of other people are going to go to the media and say, hey, what about this? What about that? I get that. So in that sense, it'll be messy. I think what's important is that the Congress will maintain the focus. The witnesses will maintain the focus. And most people are going to be just utterly riveted on these hearings.
No
and
doubt.
all this other stuff will not be that. They're not going to devote a lot of attention to the other stuff. They just want to see the damn hearings. But in the evening, the chat rooms are going to explode. You're going to have comments flying everywhere. It's going to be heated. That's unavoidable. What's important is what takes place in those hearing meetings. Now, let me tell you something. I don't care how much money it's going to cost me. I'm going to pay somebody to stand in line because I'm going to get into some of those hearings. There's no way. It's not going to be easy.
I'm with you on that. I'm just picturing Wolf Blitzer interviewing Whitley Strieber. I'm putting that in my mind's eye. Okay, but the second Rubicon, there's the other big one. I mean, because that's a major one right there, crossing that line. But the second Rubicon would be pushing the Department of Defense to now release what they have, because that's got to be the next Rubicon.
Of course. The Rubicon I referred to was the point of no return towards wrapping up the disclosure movement and ending the truth embargo. At that point, it was inevitable and much sooner than we thought, and it will happen. You get the hearings, you get disclosure. Now, the moment the president makes the announcement, other world leaders will follow quickly. It's global, it's accepted, it's confirmed, right? There won't be any recounts. There won't be any lawsuits. No, I'm passing a lawsuit, throwing all of that out because there can't be ETs here. No. Now we're in the post-disclosure world, Jimmy, and that is a whole nother massive vat of fish. In other words, my God, I have no idea what's going to happen, but everything is on the table at that point. Right? And now you're going to have people going to their congressmen and senators and so forth saying, okay, we want hearings on this. We want hearings on that. What about this? And of course, the president is going to be an enormous, not pressure, but is going to be enormous focus on what's the president going to do. But it all comes down to fundamentally this tug of war that I've talked about before. Once disclosure is done, and we're finally in the post-disclosure world, then it comes down to how much information is provided and when.
Well, can't both the House and the Senate? They have the power. This isn't Freedom of Information Act. This isn't John Greenwald Jr. requesting documents.
That's right.
Right? The Senate can now, and the House can request documents, redacted or what have you. But
yeah, it's the president, though, that is the key. Look, the president, Biden will have a very important decisions to make. Biden, if he chose to, once disclosure has taken place, is he can go to the agencies, all of them, and say, we want everything brought forward, inventoried, and provided to me for consideration. I'm going to set up a blue ribbon commission to review everything in our underground world and USAPs and decide what the public should know or not know. He could do that. He could force majeure it if he wanted to. The Congress has some power there, but not nearly the power of the president. And there'll be people demanding the president do this. They want you to drag everything out on the White House lawn. We can go through it like a rummage sale. It's going to be intense, but I think of it as a tug of war. On one side is the people, all 7 billion of us, and the media, which are immediately going to be on our side. I'll be getting calls. I'll be getting calls. Steve, we'd like you on. Hey, you haven't called me in 8 years, 10 years. Oh, no, it's okay, man. We want you on. Come on and chat. So we'll all get a media, and the media is going to be on our side. What media is going to sit out on this? Like, we'd like to kind of cover this, but it's not a good idea. We're going to, no way. So it's the media and us and the government on the other side, and we're in a tug of war, right? We want everything now, and the government says, look, we can give you this and more later. We got to be responsible. We can't get ahead of ourselves. There's national security issues. And it'll go back and forth. We'll have some victories and have some wins. But over time, and I don't think it'll take long, a huge amount is going to come out, including the contact stuff, and ultimately only the most sensitive, extremely potentially dangerous information will be withheld. Hopefully,
and what would you classify that as? A direct communication ongoing with intelligent civilizations, possession of ET technology, a craft saw, maybe a craft was donated, right, by an alien civilization. Is that the stuff that would ultimately remain protected and secret?
A reasonable question. I think you're going to have 2 points of view on this if you're in the government. One point of view is, look, the stuff that's the biggest public relation problems for us, we got to keep that secret.
Right.
Right. If it's going to make us look stupid, it's got to remain secret. Like the MyLabs program. Man, it's going to be tough explaining to the people, yeah, we kind of did some things there in order to get information and fake some maybe abductions using some chemicals. This is not, is it national security? No.
No, that's a non-trivial issue. That's a non-trivial issue if there ever was one.
It's non-trivial, but it's not core national security. It's mostly public relations.
Sure.
So some will look at that. Now, these people will be making a mistake. Others will look for fundamental national security. Now, what would fall into that area? Look, one can make a case that nothing does. They have done reverse engineering on certain technologies. Obviously, we want to know everything they know about the propulsion system and the energy.
Right.
But there may be some technologies that are so potentially dangerous that don't have what we'll call clear commercial or human benefiting aspects that should not be allowed out until an appropriate time. That would be one of them. If
you're blocking the microphone.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
that would be one of them. I'll tell you.
You're okay.
I'm a truth advocate. Ultimately, I believe that the truth is the antidote to fear, that lies have been the principal source of our dysfunction for decades, and that you get it all out and let the public deal with it, but you obviously secure and prevent some things from suddenly being utilized, but it's available. You make the information available. That would be the best way to go, but even then, you just can't dump it. You've got to put the stuff out in a reasonable amount of time, and surely the most national security concerns would be the last stuff. In other words, you work your way toward those, and then you make decisions about those as the public is learning about everything else. In other words, it needs to be responsible. Now, am I talking 10, 15 years? Hell no. I'm talking 2 years. 2 years. That's all we need to pretty much go through the sifting process that we need to go through and get out the vast majority of what is known in the government, as well as reviewing all of the citizen science research of 70 years. And then, and this is the payoff, I mean, this is it. This is the ticket here. I believe, based on everything I've seen regarding this phenomena, that disclosure will happen, 2 years of information downloads and engaging the issue globally in every way. Open contact. The ETs have been heading for this all along.
Well, okay, now
open contact.
I agree.
Disclosure.
I agree. But now let's go to the Pandora's box. All of this happens, but then we have Russia and China. Yeah. And let's say, do we share this information with Russia and China? Or does Putin come out and say, we're in contact, but we're in contact with another alien race and civilization, and we have our own technology that and our own communication that we have been dealing with. China could say the exact same thing, muddying the waters and confusing the issue and scaring the crap out of the rest of the world. Will there be a power grab for this alien technology, and who's got what?
You're getting to the core of the point that what's about to take place is the most complicated, profound issue in human history. It will challenge every world leader to the absolute limits of their intellectual and emotional capabilities, as well as their entire administrations.
They have countries that are going to say, what about us?
Yeah.
Right?
And
How
so,
do we play into this?
No, disclosure, once disclosure takes place, whoever starts it, maybe it's Biden, the rest of the world follows suit. And so Putin will immediately confirm it, so will Xi Jinping. And now each one of those nations has a issue with their people. In other words, how much are they going to tell their people?
Right.
And so you could have a situation where one country reveals something that another country would prefer be classified. Hey, too bad. You know, it's going to be a global phenomenon. It's going to be a global information transference. It's going to be not fully consistent. It would be great if there was cooperation, if the nations could come together and instead of trying to threaten each other with nuclear weapons, try to come to understandings about how they're going to deal with this. Because I assure you, when the ETs finally have open contact, say in 2 years, they're not going to just pick a couple of nations and go, hey, we're just going to deal with them. They're going to deal with the planet. They're going to deal in one way or another with all of them. They're going to deal with the civilization. And so I don't see them favoring one nation over another. I doubt that. And so we're going to have about 2 years to get ready for that. And that brings us to the ultimate, I think, question that I've answered for myself personally, that others need to also answer. Why? Why? Why the explosion of ET phenomena in 47? Why the crop circles? Why the cattle mutilation? Why the nuclear weapons tampering? Why all of this activity? All of this. Why is disclosure happening now? Why not 1920, 1885? What's going on? And my answer to that, which I will cover in my podcast in great depth, Disclosure Wire, by the way, is the name of the podcast.
Right on.
I believe that it comes down to this. The human race, starting in 1900, was on its way to the technological exponential growth that we see, the population growth that we see, and so forth. The first half of the century was standard behavior, huge, vast wars. Then we dropped the nuclear bombs, which was the major paradigm change. And that's when the ETs had to make their move. And why? Several reasons. One, we could self-destruct. I think the ETs see our self-destruction is not a good thing. You know,
they had to have gone through it themselves.
I don't know. Maybe they have, maybe they haven't. But you know how we are. We can't even stand to see a stray dog on the side of the road. And so, you know, we're not happy to watch some other country completely evolve into a chaos. We've spent 4 billion years getting to this place. They've been down that road. The idea of us having a nuclear war and sending ourselves back to the Stone Age, I don't think they see that as a good thing. And there's other problems. We're now engaging multiple technological threads, genetics, AI, environmental issues, so forth, all of which we're not ready for, and we're probably going to screw up 8 ways to Sunday. We're over our heads, all right? Fine. There's that. But there's something else. Imagine a planet like ours in a distant part of the galaxy, off in the boonies, in some nebula. Nobody knows we're there. We're completely hidden. We never had a visitor. And we keep evolving, moving along, getting smarter, developing tech, developing bombs. One day, we're going to do what we're going to do, even without the ETs. We're going to solve the relativity barrier to time and space. We're going to figure out how to move outside of the relativity barrier and thus become interstellar. And we'll build interstellar craft. Of course we will. And, well, given, particularly in our case, not necessarily every case, but in our case, yeah, you're going to take some bombs. We're going to take some nuclear weapons with you, just in case. Never know, you might run across something. And so this totally unknown planet builds some interstellar craft, puts some bombs on it, and heads off into the galaxy to see what it can see. It is, at that instant, a legitimate threat to every other civilization out there, particularly civilizations which aren't developed yet, maybe where we are 300 years ago. And up comes the Earthlings with their interstellar ships and hydrogen bombs, and they're screwing around and blowing things up. That cannot happen. Well, we're not off in a nebula somewhere. We are known. They've known about us for a very long time. I watch Ancient Aliens. So here's the deal. If you are an advanced civilization, there is no way in hell you are going to let any civilization that finally reaches where we are to just head on up, head on down, build those starships, put the bombs on, and head on out. You will intervene right then. That's when you must intervene. Now, I know enough about our physics that we are closing in on the relativity problem. This is not a secret. And of course, we have the bombs, God knows. And so I think another fundamental reason is that they have to intervene and get into open contact with us in order to ensure that we do not do that. And therefore, I assume we're going to be hearing things from them about how you can't do that, but if you want to get in bed with us, there's some wonderful things that can happen for you. That is the best answer to why. We don't want you to destroy yourselves, but you ain't coming out and giving us a problem. Now understand, until we have those starships, we are no threat to them. We haven't got a snowball's chance with them. They could destroy us like that. And anybody that thinks they can needs to be removed from their position in authority, all right? It's ridiculous. It means they're completely ignorant of physics and science. So we can't win. And by the way, the TTSA guys have referred to this repeatedly a number of times, as well as some of the witnesses. You can't win, right? Hey, you can't win. We can't beat them. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, you move forward as best you can, but don't act like you can beat them. $1 trillion space force, putting defensive weapons on the moon, forget about it. Spend the money on the poor. So, but once we get the starships, we can. And so the intervention has to happen before then. That's another reason why I give it a couple of years. They're just going to, we want to get this out of the way. And so disclosure, open contact, an agreement, get rid of the nukes, right? By the way, that's what you got to do. You got to get rid of the nukes. You get rid of the nukes, you can have some starships. You keep the nukes, you're not going to get the star. You can build them, we'll blow them up. You're never going to leave the planet with those. You can go to Venus all day long. You're not leaving the solar system.
Right.
It's so obvious, Jimmy, that I can't believe it's not being discussed in greater detail. That's my view. That's the why of all of this. And we just happen to be on stage when the play is conducted. We are so lucky. Think about it. What are the odds in all of the human history that you and I are going to be on the stage when this moment comes?
I wish Stan Friedman and so many others were here for this moment because I feel it. Listen, I've got just 5 minutes left. I want to ask you a question I've never asked you before.
Okay.
You nervous? Yeah, look at your face. Have you ever seen a UFO?
No.
And why?
I think I saw something unusual at one of the Laughlin conferences. We were out there on the deck by the river, and there was something hanging out there, and we watched it for a while. I have no idea what it was, but they said that they would typically show up for the Laughlin conference. So, but really, a sighting, no. Contact, no. None. That is not the reason I'm involved in this.
No, that's my next question. So, a life, a career, total commitment, but you haven't seen. Why? I mean, why the commitment? Why the dedication?
Well, because look, without getting into my background, I am a disclosure activist. Okay, that's what I am, or an exopolitical activist, but disclosure activist. Yeah, I have a lobby registration. People call me a lobbyist. I'm an activist. That means many things, but really, you know what I am? I am an anti-war activist, disguised as a disclosure activist. Are you following me here?
I am.
I grew up with the Vietnam War. I was born because my father was sent home from the Pacific when they dropped the bombs on Japan. That's how I got born. Nuclear child. We have to end war. And I became convinced some time ago that the best shot we had was to end this truth embargo, to bring about disclosure, ultimately the ET intervention, or not intervention, but ET content open. And I think the world would then be possible to realize we have to finally end this 10,000-year cycle of endless violence and war. It's everybody wants peace. which means we have to deal with the issue of how come so many psychopaths get into leadership roles? Why are so many psychos running country? Whatever. The point is, it's my contribution to the anti-war movement, which, if you got to admit, has never really succeeded. I mean, we've never stopped having wars in 10,000 years. That doesn't mean we shouldn't have tried. Doesn't mean we didn't lessen it. But the point is that we no longer have the option of having a major war. We can never have a third world war, except that the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists did said we're closer than ever, 100 seconds from midnight, because the world is so unstable. And so nuclear war is still on the table. And so that's why I'm in it. I'm an anti-war activist, and I saw this is clearly the way we can finally resolve this, right? And also because it's not about the ETs are here. It's about the ETs and us could be engaged, right? I mean, they could have come, left crop circles, told some cattle, abducted some people and left. It's like, hey, we're done. Thank you. So bye. No, they kept staying around because ultimately that's what's coming, right? So if an ET walked into my room, I would be like, okay, how are you? How's everything going? But it's not like I think I'm going to be profoundly moved. I've known they were real forever, since I was a teenager. But it doesn't mean anything unless we actually engage them openly so we can change our society. All right, this is our best chance to change our society at the degree and level required to avoid the calamities we're facing. I assure you the Green New Deal is not enough. Right? Everything on the table is not enough. Our problems are overwhelming, right? We can't even get rid of the nukes. We've had 30 years since the end of the Cold War. And so what's enough? ET disclosure and open contact. And okay, but why would you even say that? Because evidence we've been amassing for 70 years points exactly to that. Now, some people don't see that because they're researchers. They focus on a case, a narrow area. No problem. I'm glad to do that. My job is to see the whole picture. My job is to try to see the total context and try to understand where the hell it's going and why.
I've got exactly 45 seconds left, about a minute. Tell us really quickly, Disclosure Wire, when is the first episode? Where can everybody go?
Disclosure Wire podcast will start soon, maybe 7-8 days. My website is paradigmresearchgroup.org. Tons of material there on everything we've talked about. I have a Twitter account, Paradigm Research Group. I welcome all followers. Right? You're only as important as your Twitter followers, my friend. That's the way it works now. Live with it. So, yeah, that's it. It's been a thrill. I hope we don't wait so long between before the next interview.
Yeah, thank you so much, Stephen. And I've seen the studio, everybody. It's absolutely unbelievable. And I look forward to it. Let us know when it comes out. We'll do everything that we can to support you, Stephen. Thank you so much. Be safe out there. It's a crazy world.
You be safe too, my friend.
Stephen Bassett just went poll to poll. I've got to get out of here. I got to read credits and before the network cuts us off. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Camarion. Shows produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Kevin. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitello, Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast is only copyrighted 2020 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tomorrow night is Fader night, everybody. Open lines all night long. Until then, I want everybody to be safe. This is Fade to Black.